Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Sarah Griffiths, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsit, John Kays, Tommy Swagnut, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Melby Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Samson, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Is it okay if we talk, Nathan?
No, you don't have my permission to talk, Neil. Of course,
Well,
what
I don't know
are you
what
talking
you're
about?
sorting out.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
You said you're sorting something out. I don't know if you just meant you or everybody.
Oh, yeah, starting off the show, mate. that's what I do.
Okay. So, yeah, I think he's going to be a reasonable guy. I don't think he's had the black swan broken down to him. So, if he comes in and we're able to drop that on him, plus the sextant, he could either, there's two ways, right? Resist, or just like, holy shit, Earth is flat.
Well, that's why I'm here. I want to hear what he has to say. That's his position. Reminds me of how I used to think. Kind of joking. Just I don't know. If he holds to the measurements, he won't have an argument. I think that's why he was already slightly invoking geodesics when you asked him when 10th asked him if curve was straight.
Yeah, but that's imaginary land. That's make believe.
Well, see, that's the thing. You can't invoke mathematics without measurement. You need a measurement to invoke mathematics. You can't just imagine a measurement and then use mathematics on your imagination. It doesn't work like that.
So basically what you're saying, without a radius, it's over.
Right. Yeah, nothing makes sense after the geometry is gone. No. The minute you say it's refracted, it's over.
Daddy. Agreed.
Now, whether he'll have the philosophical understanding necessary enough to realize that it's over, that's yet to be seen.
I can't be sure, but what I'm going to take on this is he's going to be the type of guy that is going to be like, but I don't get it. Why would they do that? Why would they lie? How could all these people be involved?
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't take that many people to be involved, it does take somebody to be involved, but you know, all it takes is people to believe the lie. It doesn't take them to know that it's a lie.
Yeah, because most of the people working in NASA, they think they're doing a right old job, right?
But yeah, that's why it's compartmentalized how it is. You know, you separate the engineers into three groups. You have one group invent, you know, design rockets. You have another group design problems that the rockets could face, and then you have a third group invent ways to handle the problems that those rockets could face from the other group. And then all three groups think they're doing something when all they've ever done is some, you know, drew some lines on some paper and done some calculations.
Yeah, then you have that guy, Phil Bell, who thinks he's tracking satellites. He really thinks he's involved in their movements.
Well, he's not moving anything that's traveling in a radial path. So I don't know. Maybe he is involved with moving something in the sky, but it's not traveling in an orbit. That's been proven.
No, he thinks they're orbiting.
He assumes they're orbiting, Neil.
What do you mean he assumes? By working on it, he's assuming that they're orbiting? Whatever he's doing with his computer?
Yeah. We don't have orbits. There are no orbits.
Yeah, doesn't that break
I know
Newton's
that.
law?
I agree.
Hold on one second, Neil. Go ahead, Chaos.
Doesn't that break Newton's law?
The laws of
The very
Newton.
nature of an orbit, you know, orbiting around a spherical Earth. Something is traveling in an arced, straight line. When Newton's laws, you know, I had it up earlier. I'm gonna do it verbatim. That way I sound correct.
There are no arced straight lines. That's a contradiction.
I was going to say that's a contradiction in terms.
Right.
No, I was
The
going to
rate
say
of
that's
change momentum proportional to the impressed force it takes to replace in the direction of a straight line when the force is in act. So it needs to be in a straight line in space. It can't orbit in a geodesic straight line.
There's no such thing as a curved straight line, just like there's no such thing as an orbit. Why are we allowing them to say or to violate the law of non-contradiction here? Stop it right when it's wrong. Here's your change, sir. You gave me $100. The item costs $50. Here's $10 back. No.
You owe me 40.
They do a lot of things with math.
Yeah, the idea of one body of mass perpetually falling around another body of mass is just a begging the question fallacy. It's their assumption in the first instance. They assume that's what's occurring.
Agreed. I had my son telling me today, last night, this is a whole new thing he's telling me now, that it is possible for plasma to form a sphere. And that's what the sun is, a ball of plasma.
Hold on a sec. You're skipping a step to get to that plasma. You know, they would need gas to become plasma. So it's still necessary to know where the gas pressure comes from before you can assert plasma.
He's essentially asserting gas pressure without a container, without giving any justification. He's just saying you can form a sphere of plasma. What, without a container?
Not without the sphere container, you can't. If you got a sphere container, yeah, then it's gonna it will form around that sphere. But it has to have a container. It can't just
gas pressure
stay
first,
out of
right?
nowhere. That's what I told him. I said, you still need gas pressure first. It's got to be hitting on something. It's not just going to stop. in midair and start making a sphere without it being a sphere container.
I mean, you might be able to create a ball of plasma, but to achieve that, you've first got to be in conditions conducive to do it, which would be contained conditions. So this is where we end up branching off into the ideas or declarations that you can have gas pressure without a container. Here's my 2 containers.
Correct.
So the example will be taking place within gas pressure. So you go, well, where'd you get the gas pressure from? Always comes back to the same question. Where'd you get the gas pressure from in the first place?
Well, even worse than that, Neil's son threw in, begging the question that Earth was a sphere falling around the sun within that, too. He just never explicitly stated it when he said the sun was a physical thing.
Yeah, I was trying to get him to agree with me. I was like, Jacob, why can't you just agree that nobody knows what the sun is? Nobody has been there. Nobody has tested it. Nobody can validate it.
Why has it decided it's plasma anyway?
I have no idea.
It just arbitrarily decided it's plasma and then started justifying how it's plasma.
Yeah, that's how it usually works.
They don't know then. Maybe ask him. You say it's plasma. What do you mean it's plasma? Why is it plasma?
Usually those arguments come down to, well, it has to be plasma because it's a physical ball, like that's the only way it could work. It's how they'll justify it.
Yeah, that don't concern me. Your physical assumption bias.
That's their real religion, though, isn't it? Like, heliocentrism would be a philosophy in that religion, but materialism is the prime religion.
Not really. It's in the title. Sun at the centre. The notion of us moving around the sun and the sun being the centre point is the main crux of the religion.
Yeah, the sun is the god.
I mean, you're saying off the back of that makes the sun a physical material thing, and it's us bowing to that physical material thing we've assigned at the centre of it all in our solar system, with us moving around it. So yes, you are correct, but in the first instance, it's straight, simple sun worship. The Earth is bowing towards the sun.
Yeah, sun is the god.
Well, heliocentrism stopped putting the sun at the center. Now it's the great attractor, I think.
Yeah, it's the great attractor at the centre of the known universe. But in terms of the system we live in a heliocentric system. Sun at the centre.
But except when they take liberty to say in a celestial sphere, the Earth's at the center.
Well, no, that's not heliocentric. At that point, that's geocentric.
Yeah,
I
but
was just going to say that.
But it's the heliocentric people doing it is what I'm trying to refer to.
When a heliocentric person says, for this example, we must refer to the Earth being at the centre, then they are simply asserting that they're not in a heliocentric system anymore. It's not a heliocentric thing to say Earth is at the centre of it all.
I know. I know. That's why they say in navigation, you got to assume the Earth is stationary and motionless and the stars are moving. They speak two sides out of their mouth.
Yeah, to do celestial navigation, you cannot assume a heliocentric system, would be the way I phrased that. You can't assume you've got a sun at the centre and you moving around it if you're going to do this.
Correct. It's just nice to remind them.
Indeed, absolutely, and their own rhetoric will tell them so.
I've been doing star trails last couple of nights. Very crisp, cool evenings, great images in Takes about 150 minutes, 2.5 hours to get 10-second shot. And it's just some brilliant videos. And it's interesting because the sun's circuit has changed during the day because we're going into our winter months. So it's lower in the horizon than the summertime. And the hill that it normally sets behind with these radio towers, it is left to that by quite many, many degrees now where it sets. And all this within just a few months. And so now at night, I'm able to see Orion's belt very nicely, almost directly over my house, which is a problem.
This is technically one of the claims I was trying to sort of get across last week, but the sentiment was lost in the infighting between Dearth and RV, or RV and Dearth. So technically you're putting forth a claim that the sextant as a tool only works on a flat plane, right? And then you've put your information to us and we've listened, and then, sometimes we've disagreed, sometimes we've agreed, sometimes we've argued over the importance of certain aspects of it, right? But it's still just a new claim. And last week, although I didn't intend it to be sort of overshadowed by what was going on within the community, it was, which is to say, I'm going to start embracing that. In other words, the flat earth intonation in flat earth debate has changed subtly. So instead of flat earth debate, it's flat earth debate. In other words, most of the people who are coming here know the earth's flat, but they might still have some ideas about the way the world is. So off the back of yourself and Steve last week, that was what we debated about. We debated about no trees, we debated about the sextant. In other words, we're talking about stuff that is definitely related to the nature of the world. It's akin to the debate. And the fact that there is no challenge anymore, there's nothing for the globe side to offer to this discussion anymore, so they don't come. Now, I might get that Tom guy today, we'll see how that goes. If he does come, great. If he doesn't, then oh well. But either way, I still want to re-stress that point, which is to say, I do want people like Righteous last week, that was another one, to postulate their incoherent dielectric acceleration so we can listen to them and potentially get new ideas that might actually drive the conversation forward, might develop our own understandings better, or might fall on their ass. Either way, I want to encourage that, as there is seemingly no challenge anymore from the globe. I think you'll all agree.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it's being played out. I mean, like you said, maybe this guy will come today and he's kind of pretending, or actually is, because we don't know yet, to be kind of in the middle, but he leans towards heliocentrism based on last week's show. So, but he'll have to deal with logic and good arguments, and he'll have to tell us what a 90 is. He'll have to tell us what level is. He'll have to tell us what's straight. See, that's why I asked him last week, hey, don't go, before you go, I know you got to go. And then can you distinguish between curved and straight? Because if they say yes, it's worth the talk. If they say no, well, then it's not worth any talk to me, because what am I going to talk to with someone who can't even distinguish between what a curved line is and a straight line is?
Well, when he started talking about geodesics, he's talking about intrinsic curves, like you take a ball and you draw a line around the diameter of it, or its circumference, right? And you can say that's an intrinsically straight line on that sphere. But that's not the same thing as an extrinsically straight line. Like the dip angle used to be an extrinsic line to measure curvature before the black swan. So the meaning of straight and curved hasn't changed. It's just when you introduce those words in that they try to mess with reality.
I never referred to someone when playing a basketball, hey, when I get here, throw me the straight ball. No, throw me the round ball. I mean, come on. We know what we're all saying. They're trying to play word games here. If we had if we had a circumference, then we would have no black swan imagery possible.
Correct. Very good.
This is why the sextant is going to lead to the black swan, because the black swan gave birth to the sextant.
Well, what I'm saying is, even within their own language, they're misunderstanding the terms they're using, is what I'm saying.
But that's the point I'm making. How do I have, or how can anyone have, a back and forth if the terms don't mean what they mean? If straight means something to me, but that means totally something to you, we're just going to, pun intended, go in circles.
Are you the guy that was here last week? Is it Tom Man?
Yes, it is.
Good to have you. We'll go live in about 7 minutes, just so you know.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, this is the pre-show. We do some stuff here too.
What's the attitude, Neil?
No, what's with the bit offensive attitude? What's going on?
No, that's the way I talk. I just said this is the pre-show. We do some stuff here too. So you want to get busy now? Is curved straight or is straight?
That's a New Yorker for sure.
Yeah, pay no attention to Neil, Tom.
That's my
He may be
welcome
he may be the geographically closest person to me. I'm in Philly.
Okay.
Nope, I'm in Allentown.
Philly, home of Rocky Balboa. My favorite.
Well, if you're in Philly, there's a lot at stake in the next few minutes.
Ah, good one. Could be a little cheesy though.
I'd like to offer Tom some advice before y'all get the debate started.
Did you want some advice, Tom?
Always happy to get some advice.
Try not to invoke mathematics without a measurement first. That'll always get you in trouble.
Not only am I trained in law, but I haven't done math probably since like sophomore year of college. So I think it would be a major error for me to venture into anything mathematical, frankly.
Oh, cool.
You'll be
So you've got a
alright,
law
Tom.
background. That should be interesting.
Yeah, we
a
are
lawyer
trained
too.
to we're trained how to argue, not how to think. So we're kind of the opposite of what a scientist is supposed to be.
Sure, no, I get that. That's why it should be interesting. For the benefit of my viewers, what is evidence? How would you define evidence?
Let's see. One moment. Let's see if this definition works. The available body of facts or information indicating whether a belief or proposition is true or valid. Or were you asking for like the legal definition, like under the rules of evidence?
Either. If you dig out the Lexi, whatever it is, Lexis, Nexus, or whatever it's called, then fine. But whatever you think is the definition of... That's good enough for me.
So I mean, the one I just read off Google would probably be fine. It'd probably be just about the same under the rules of evidence, now that I think about it. I think the language we use in the law is making a fact more likely than not. Anything showing, whether a fact is more likely or less likely, I should say.
Right, so proof.
Yeah, not in the like mathematical proof sense, but the the inductive sense.
Very good.
Well, would facts be inductive? I don't know if I fully agree with that, but it'll work for the purpose of the discussion.
Yeah, I think just in the sense that if we have a body of evidence leading to a scientific conclusion, it's always possible that new evidence will come along that could change that view. I remember writing a paper on a court case when I was in law school called Kitzmiller v. Dover. It was a middle of Pennsylvania. A school board tried to teach intelligent design and were sued. This is early 2000s. And some parents and teachers sued, saying that this violated the Establishment Clause, where the government basically is not supposed to teach religious doctrine in public schools. And they talked about this kind of at length in the trial, where the experts for the plaintiff side that was suing the school board were talking about how science is always tentative, so it's always possible. Evolutionary theory could be proven wrong someday, but they were arguing at this point it had not been.
But at the start of that, you said, I don't know, is this based on the case or is it based on your understanding, that a body of evidence would provide you with scientific, I've forgotten the word you use after that.
So if a body of evidence provides you or points towards a certain conclusion, even if it seems very strong, like lots of evidence supporting a certain conclusion, it's always possible that we will someday come across evidence that changes this. In other words, we can't know a scientific conclusion with absolute certainty.
I see.
Yes, you
and
can. Yes, you
Hold
can.
on, Neil.
And, if you dig into like the philosophical stuff, like Descartes, I think is probably the most famous guy that would have written about this problem, from a philosophical perspective.
What problem?
Of can we know anything, right? And he came up with the famous, I think, therefore I am. So like we can know that for sure, like a priori. But otherwise, we are.
If I was to ask you what the word empirical meant, what would you believe that meant?
Let me get you a definition here.
He's trapped between thinking science is inductive or deductive. He doesn't
We'll
know
get
what
to that.
abductive is.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We're leading him. We're giving him.
I certainly think you use deduction in science. My point being that you will always have to keep the conclusions tentative. So
Really?
Empirical, based on, concerned with, or verifiable by observation or experience, rather than theory or pure logic.
So you're under the impression that science can't prove things?
Not in the mathematical sense, where we would be
Sorry.
100%.
Sorry, stop. No. Maths isn't science. Maths is maths. So just bench that, shelve that for a minute, that thought that not in the mathematical sense. Science, specifically science, you're under the misapprehension that it cannot prove things, correct?
What do you mean by prove?
You've just qualified what evidence is. And at the end, I qualified that would be proof then, and you agreed. We've already covered this, have we not?
Yeah, so it depends
So
on
why
what
are you
you
asking?
mean by that word.
I don't get it. Why are you asking then? So you're under the misapprehension, I'll repeat it a second time, that science cannot prove things. You don't need to qualify about what proof means. We've done that. So that's your misapprehension at this stage, correct?
Yeah, that's
you're wrong.
Totally fine.
Yeah, you're wrong. It can prove things. That's all it does. What is science?
Yeah, that sounds good.
No, you were under the misapprehension that it can't prove things. That was your last preamble. You're wrong. Now I'm asking what you think science is.
So I believe I said, and if I didn't say this, I misspoke. What I was trying to say was, if you're asking proof beyond all doubt, I don't think science does that.
Yeah, I established that. Yes, I know that is your misapprehension. Thank you for repeating it. I already established, qualified, and then summarised that fact. Thank you. Now, I'm asking what you think science is. Third time asking. What is science?
Okay, here we go. Science is the pursuit and application of knowledge and understanding of the natural and social world following a systematic methodology based on evidence.
That's incorrect.
Okay.
Where's that from?
That is just a quick Google search. sciencecouncil.org.
So what's the method?
I'm open to.
So what's the method?
I'm open to hearing, different definitions. What's that?
No. What's the method then, based on what you've just said? If that's the definition according to you.
So the way I would understand the method, and do you want to hop on to the live and we'll talk about this?
No, it's all good.
Okay, yeah. So the way I would understand the method, and it might not necessarily happen in this order, but you would try to construct some sort of hypothesis or model, which is going to be an explanation.
Or model. What's a hypothesis?
Hypothesis is a proposed explanation for a set of phenomena that would be, and you add like some qualifiers to it, should be falsifiable, should be able to make predictions. My understanding is a model is basically that as well. It's going to be trying to uh, explain a certain set of phenomena that seem to be connected, and you try to explain the phenomena with a proposition or series of propositions, hopefully simpler than not, right? And then you can try to test that by running experiments, making observations, what have you. If those end up conflicting with what you proposed, you have to modify it, or if it's really bad, maybe dispense of it entirely and start from scratch. And that's hopefully how the process will work.
Okay, so what's the purpose of the process?
So the purpose, as I understand it, is to try to understand the world around us. I know that there's some debate on how broad that will go. Some people will say, for example, you have to use methodological naturalism. Some people will say that doesn't really make sense because it's totally unclear what the distinction between naturalism and the supernatural would be, right? For example, if you're saying that God parted the Red Sea, well, is it possible we could observe that? Could we study that? You know what I'm saying? So some people will quibble with that, but my understanding broadly is just to understand the natural world.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Neil, Arwin, 10th Man, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, good afternoon.
How are you?
Very well indeed. Let's do a bit of housekeeping. So we're joined by a globe believer who we'll get into our discussions with after the housekeeping questions, but I'd encourage you to join in if you can. Tom. Ready?
How's it going, Nathan? How are you?
Very well. But we're going to do a bit of housekeeping. Are you familiar with this section of the show?
Yeah, I heard it last time, so do your thing.
Excellent stuff. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curvature?
No, Nathan, we're going to need a radius for that, and they don't have that.
What do you mean they don't have that?
Well, curvature is the horizon Earth curve. They can't even answer that question anymore.
What do you reckon, Tom? Earth curve? Pretty fundamental part of believing you're on a sphere.
Yes.
Can you show it us? Has my computer crashed? What's going on?
I'm
He's
here.
looking up a picture.
Oh,
Oh,
pictures.
okay.
We love pictures.
I don't want to assume that's what he's doing. Maybe he didn't hear me.
Yeah, if you asked me something, I didn't hear you. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. Can you show us Earth curve?
Could I show you? Well, this is something I wanted to talk about, is kind of the epistemology behind it, because, I can give you things that I think show it, and my guess is you'll say that it's not legitimate. It might be fake photos, things like that. I kind of
Photos
wanted
of...
to talk about the background first.
Let's start with that. No, that's
before-
cool. Why would we say... Well,
Yeah,
don't
so-
assume... I've just said I don't want to assume that you would do something. Let's not do the same in my direction. So let's not assume I'm just going to say it's fake. What have you got?
So what I would show you is, if you just go online, Google photos or videos of Earth or Earth's curve, and you'll see, and you've probably been shown these many a time, where it'll be photos from NASA or people that send balloons up with a video, and take videos of these things. So if I go online and search for some photos and videos, I can find quite a few. I know that NASA has said some of these will be photoshopped to, try to make them more clear and whatnot. And I understand that many people in the flat Earth community will assert that some might be CGI, some are photoshopped.
Some of what? You haven't told us what you're showing us, though, Tom. You've just said look up photos online from NASA. You've told us the source, and you've told us where we can find these sources. But you haven't told us what the pictures are of. What are the pictures of?
Oh, yeah. So they'll be either of the full globe, or they will be of a portion of the globe that very much appears to be curved. And just things
Can
like
you
that.
describe that to me? Portion of a globe that appears to be curved. What? Describe that to me. What's that look like?
Yeah, so you could check out the live stream, for example, of the International Space Station, which would have a very apparent curve when you look at the live stream. You would see the part of the globe that's in frame, and it would be curved.
And what is that? What is it? A limitation of something? Is it something meeting something else? What does it look like?
What does it look like?
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a sphere, like part of a large sphere.
What bit of it? You're not filling me in. I'm asking for Earth curve. What does that look like? In a picture, describe it to me.
So I'm doing my best to describe. Maybe you could imagine getting a tennis ball and putting your cell phone camera very close up to a portion of it. That's about how it would look.
I see. So the geometric limitation to my view would create a high horizon line at the tennis ball. So it'd be the horizon then. The horizon formed by the tennis ball at its geometric limitations.
I'm not sure what you're saying with the geometric limitations, but yeah, it would look like a curved horizon
really?
line.
You told me to hold up a tennis ball. Do you not understand that tennis ball, when you're describing Earth curve as being comparable, would be the geometric limitation to your view caused by the tennis ball? That's what you're describing to me. I don't know why you'd say you don't understand me explaining it back to you. It was what you told me.
Yeah, that works.
That was me clarifying what you said. It's not me suggesting it. It's me clarifying what you've just said. So the geometric limitation to your view on a tennis ball is what you say is comparable to the horizon presented from the International Space Station when they show you a quarter-edge horizon of the globe, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
No, Tom. The horizon's not Earth curve. Now, all of the pictures that you describe that have come from NASA, from space, they're being taken from an area that doesn't exist. You see, if that area claimed to be space, that would be a vacuum, was real, then the gas you are currently breathing in and out would fill that availability of volume, as per the second law of thermodynamics. Are you aware of the second law of thermodynamics?
I believe that's entropy, correct?
Yeah, entropy. So you are aware of entropy increase, gas filling space. Gas fills space, right? You're aware of that effect.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So space would be a space, Tom. Gas would fill it then, Tom. So we'd all be dead, Tom, if they had images from a sky vacuum, because the gas we're breathing, would be filling that area of space. It's called entropy. Gas fills space, And they're saying these pictures come from a place called space, a vacuum for the gas we breathe to fill, Tom.
I see what you're saying. Okay. So this is why I was hoping we could take a step back and talk about our approaches to,
You don't need to do anything, Tom.
Okay.
We quizzed you on what you thought was Earth curve. Now I'm basically ripping that to pieces. Yeah, methodically, slowly, one step at a time, one section of your belief at a time. First section of your belief so far, hopefully without interruption while I rip apart your complete nonsense that you believe in, won't be riddled with you talking through me. Just pop yourself on mute, listen up while I dissect what you've just told us, Tom. Is that okay by you?
Yep.
Excellent stuff. So you think there's a place that you can take photographs from, somewhere you've never been and will never encounter in your entire lifetime, that is in violation of the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy increase would dictate that if the sky was a vacuum to take pictures of Earth from, then the gas we breathe would fill that space. Ergo, all pictures from the violation of natural law known as outer space are automatically fake, akin to taking pictures from a place called Narnia. You can't go to Narnia, it isn't real. Likewise, you can't go to space, it isn't real. It violates natural law. We need to have containment to have gas pressure here. And a claim of a sky not containing gas but being an area for it to fill makes it automatically fake. That discounts all of those pictures from NASA and the International Space Station because they're claimed to be in an orbit in space, which they are not. Now, further to that, any other pictures that you might have named from high-altitude balloons would also involve a curving horizon, akin to, according to you, the geometric limitation on a tennis ball. Now, our horizon is not geometric, like your tennis ball example. We have debunked that. If the Earth was a sphere, like a tennis ball, but with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to the geometric limitation, like on your tennis ball, that would be the horizon, would be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as per the globe Earth mathematics that states exactly that. Now, we have imagery that shows the horizon beyond those geometric limitations if Earth was like a tennis ball. Ergo, the horizon is not Earth curve, and the Earth is not a sphere. If it was, we'd have a geometric limitation like on a tennis ball at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and we don't. So the horizon, Tom, is an Earth curve. Further to that, your own side in debate will tell us that. Would you like a few quotes from your own side about how non-geometric the horizon is, Tom? Just in case you think it's me making it up.
Yeah.
Sure. Quote, the rumpus. The geometric horizon only exists in the maths. End quote. Plan a walk. We wouldn't expect to see physical geometry, like a tennis ball. End quote. AB science. We're not expecting to see the geometric horizon. End quote. Like on your tennis ball, Tom. So your own side's making it abundantly clear that we're not going to see the geometry like on a tennis ball. That can't be seen. It only exists in the maths. Horizon's not Earth curve. I'm done, Tom. Feel free to respond.
Okay. Gotcha. So I'm wondering kind of the approach you take from an epistemological perspective for a question like this. When I've spoken to flat earthers, typically we'll start on we'll say similar things, like we'll try to use scientific method, logic, what have you. The one major difference I've noticed is that a lot of people in the flat earth community will say that unless you're doing an experiment or observation yourself, you can't really rely on what other people are telling you. So I was just kind of wondering the approach you take.
Right, an experimental observation. What do you think that is? You've already had your incorrect assertions about what you believe science is, and a vague understanding. Where we got to in the pre-show was your understanding that it's a way of ascertaining information and knowledge about the natural world. You also explain that you'd observe a phenomena, propose a cause of that phenomena, and then vary it to see if it causes it, while simultaneously peppering it with the idea that a model would do the same thing. You dropped that in. We didn't quite round out how you think the model is employed. So, given that you're now saying that in order to acquire this as a claim, I would have to acquire scientific evidence of this logical deduction. Modus tollens. It's a logical deduction. If P, then Q, not Q, therefore not P.
Okay, so to the specific epistemological framework I mentioned, where a lot of people in the flat Earth community will not be persuaded if I rely on what other people have said, particularly mainstream scientists and whatnot. Do you have a similar view, or do you think we can rely on things other people have purported to observe and experiment and calculate and such?
You don't know what an experiment is. You think it doesn't prove things. We've already established that in the pre-show. So if I explain the logic behind the scientific method, will you yield to the notion that it does prove things? If you will bear with me to give you that explanation.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm certainly happy to listen to any of the semantics you want to talk about. What I was saying, for anyone that wasn't in the pre-show, is that there's different uses of that word prove. So in law, we don't mean beyond all doubt. We have burdens of proof. In a civil case, it's more likely than not. In a criminal case, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. And that means there's going to be a possibility the defendant might not be liable or might not be guilty. But that's, not...
Well, that's not science, that's law. Sure, that's law. So, this is science.
So science is the same. Science is the same in that sense.
No, it isn't. No, it's not. It's empirical. That's wrong. If you'll I'll beg your mind, if you can beg my indulgence, I want to tell you why it's empirical, based on the logic employed in a hypothesis. Now, you've used that word so far. First, I'm going to ask you, as you've used that word, do you know what a hypothesis is?
Yeah, it would be a falsifiable explanation for a set of phenomena.
Hey, and what's the structure?
What do you mean by that?
The structure. What's the process? How do you describe the process of construction of a hypothesis?
I mean, it depends what you're talking about. I feel like it could just be, you see some things happening that seem connected, and you say, I think that's why those things happen.
I see. So if A, then B.
If A, then B. I don't think that's what I said. Maybe it is.
You said you see something happening, and you say, I think that will cause it.
Or, yeah, you propose a
so
cause.
If A...
I think that's why that's
So
happening.
if A, then B. The phenomena being B, your presumed cause being A.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, it is, I assure you. So, there's also a null. Ever heard of a null?
A no? Like N-O?
Null. N-U-L-L.
I don't think so, no.
You never heard of a null? All right. Surprising that you would think science doesn't prove things, and yet you've never heard of a null. The thing that offers science...
Like
my bad, middle of a sentence, my bad. Showing how stupid you are when it comes to your understanding of science, and you think you need to talk to me. Of course you do. No, you don't. You don't know what science is. You thought it didn't prove things, and you don't know what a null is. Shocking. If you did, you'd realise how stupid you were for saying it doesn't prove things. Maybe you'd like to type into your Google and look up what a null is. Off you go.
Having no legal or binding force. Invalid.
All right. So invalid. All right. So what do you think a null is in a hypothesis then?
Seems like it would be an invalid hypothesis.
No, it would be the antithesis of your presumed cause of the effect. So whereas if A then B would be you assume the cause and get it correct, you also have something called a null. If A, not B. Now, if you have both of these sides of a hypothesis, that would be your alternative, if A then B, and your null, if A not B, both formulated alongside one another, and you vary A to see if it causes B, can both A causing B and A not causing B be simultaneously true?
Could you say that again?
if you vary that which you assume causes an effect, that would be vary A to see if it causes B, can it both cause B and not cause B at the same time? Can it both be the cause and not be the cause at the same time? Is that possible? Does it sound like a violation of the law of non-contradiction to you?
Well, with God, all things are possible, but yeah, it sounds like that would be impossible.
So you can't both cause something and not cause something at the same time, then?
That sounds correct.
So, therefore, upon experimentation, that would be actualization of a hypothesis. That would be you vary A to see if it causes B. Would you say that either one or other of those two positions, that would be A causing B and A not causing B, will be, listen closely, proven?
Yeah, exactly. And that's
So science does prove things then. So you would definitely assert that we can prove things then. This is proving either one or the other. Can't simultaneously both not be true or both be true. Therefore, one or other will be proven to be true then.
So as I was explaining...
So you haven't affirmed, my friend. I'll just say it slowly, with you listening, not speaking through me, and then at the end you saying, yes, Nathan, I understand how stupid I was to say science doesn't prove things, when at the end of actualization of a hypothesis, you can only prove something, Tom. Do you understand that now?
So as I was saying before...
Is that a yes, Tom? And not as you were saying,
board.
as I was saying, Tom, you stupid idiot. Science proves things. At the end of hypothesis actualization, you can only prove one of those statements true. It's the only outcome. You can only prove things when you actualize a hypothesis, Tom. Yet to just say yes, science absolutely, unequivocally, and only proves things. That's its primary purpose, Tom. You were just misunderstanding what science is because you didn't know what it was.
So if you're saying that it proves things beyond...
Yeah, it does. We just established that. It's not an if statement anymore, Dumbo. We've just established that, Tom. You just yet to clarify that you understand and appreciate that it absolutely proves things. Not if.
So I'm discerning a flaw in your reasoning there. Because
oh, really?
What you're doing is basing this on empirical observation. This would assume that there's an external world. The external world is
I am not basing it on empirical observation. That is not what I stated.
Okay.
Tom, I'll try once more while you try and segue away from your own stupidity and incorrect assertion that science doesn't prove things. Yes, it does. At the end of actualization of a hypothesis, you can only prove one side or other of the hypothesis true. If you prove A causes B, you discount the null. If you prove A doesn't cause B, you discount the alternative. In other words, only one or other can and must be proven at the end of the process, Tom. That's what science does. It proves things, Tom. You were just wrong. Yet to affirm this still, Tom.
I did affirm it actually multiple times.
Oh, so science does prove things. Tom, you just need to say, yes, Nathan. Yes, Nathan. I was incorrect when I said science doesn't prove things. It does.
So if I had said that, I would be incorrect, of course, because as I said, it depends.
You damn skippy you were. Yes, you did. Yes, we did record it, Tom. Not if. Tom. Every time you pepper your incorrect assertion with if. If I said that, yes, you did, Tom. That's why I'm getting more and more short with you. So you weaseling away from your own ignorance and stupidity about science isn't going to get tolerated here. I will just hold you indefinitely till you have a little bit of humility and understand and appreciate how fucking wrong you were about science. Now you're starting to piss me off. It's been 6 times. I just need you to say, with a little smile and a little bit of dignity, yes, Nathan, I understand now when I said science doesn't prove things, how wrong I was. It can only prove things. That's its purpose. And having had it explained to me, I now understand that. Do you or don't you?
Do you remember my legal
I don't
analysis?
need a jogging of my memory, Tom. I need you to affirm that you understand how wrong you were about science not proving things. Do you understand or not?
I cannot affirm.
Oh, so you think that at the end of if A, then B, or if A, not B, you can not prove something at the end of that process? Pray tell how the violation of the law of non-contradiction built within a hypothesis is capable of not proving something. Tom, go right ahead.
Proof in science and in law is inductive. Proof in math is not.
We're not talking
And
about
so-
math.
Right. So again, that's what I'm trying to say.
Sorry, why are you laughing, Tom? You're still yet to affirm how wrong you were about science not proving things. You were wrong.
Right, and I won't affirm that because that's not what I was saying. I was
Sorry, we've got it recorded, on record, recorded and broadcast, Tom. Yes, you did. You made it explicitly clear after I led you that you didn't think science proved things.
I'm very glad we have this recorded for that exact reason.
Yeah, you made it explicitly clear that it did not prove things. It lended weight with bodies of evidence, but could be open to be changed at any time. You made that explicitly clear.
That's absolutely correct.
No, it isn't, Tom. Science proves things. You can either prove if A causes B or A not causes B. If you didn't, it would violate the law of non-contradiction. That's 7 times.
So what we're doing is inferring from our senses.
No, we're proving, Tom. It's proving things, not inferring that A causes B. You vary it, and if it causes it, it causes it. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. You're not inferring anything, you're proving it.
Have you seen the film?
Why are you asking me something, Tom, when you're still, after 8 attempts, yet to concede your own idiocy and ignorance regarding science, and its inability to prove things according to you, having been recorded making that plain?
So the reason I'm trying to ask questions and things like that is
You don't need to ask questions, Tom. You're not in the control seat. You're not in a little lawyer position asking judge and jury questions. What you are doing is being told by a flat earther that you don't understand science.
so we typically don't ask the judge or jury questions.
I don't give a fuck about your law shite. This is science that you don't understand.
So
So you don't understand science, and the 9th attempt of me getting you to concede that when you declared that it's open to change at a later date, you were wrong.
So I don't believe I was wrong about that.
Yeah, you fucking were. You're just thick. If you think that something that would violate the law of non-contradiction can be shown to not be proving things at the end of the process, I've asked you to go ahead and show me how that violation of the law of non-contradiction can take place.
Would you be willing to let me explain? Yeah? Hello?
What part of feel free to explain how you can get around this violation of the law of non-contradiction built within a hypothesis? You say, if you'll allow me to explain, and then ask if anybody else is talking. Yeah, go ahead!
Nathan, I believe you cut out. I think that was all that happened there.
Oh, really? Well, listen up. Get the hell on with it. Explain how you can not prove something at the end of hypothesis actualization, Mr. I know all about science.
So I certainly don't know all about science, just to qualify.
Yeah, no shit! You're being schooled by me!
So
Yeah, so you don't know anything about science, you thought it didn't prove things. And after 10 attempts of getting you to concede that when you said it was open to change at the end of the process, you're still yet to concede, you're saying, no, I don't think I was wrong, you bloody weasel.
So for any listeners interested in hearing my position...
Nobody's interested in hearing anything other than you concede that you were wrong about science not proving things, and when that's all it can do.
Well, it's possible my mother will listen to this eventually. She'll be...
Nobody gives 2 shits about your fucking mother. All we care after 11 attempts of you having been recorded making it plain that science is open to change after the process. You were wrong. It would violate the law of non-contradiction if that was the case. Hypothesis has empiricism built within as by virtue of the null.
Giovanna's great, by the way. But, okay, so what I was saying was, the word prove is used differently in different contexts.
We clarified what proof meant in the pre-show. You don't need to babble on about what proof is. We already clarified it with you.
Okay.
So why are you being such a weasel? All you need to do after 12 attempts is say, yes, I understand. When I claimed that science would be open to change after the fact. No. If you vary something and it doesn't cause something, it doesn't matter how many times you vary it thereafter, it will never cause it. Therefore, you have proven the null. That is proof. That will never change. You were just wrong when you thought it would change. When you thought it changed after the fact, you were wrong, Tom. And this is now 13 times with a slimy, greasy lawyer saying he doesn't concede that he's wrong when he's wrong. You didn't know what science is. You're more than happy to talk through me right now and declare that you don't know what science is. We do. And until you concede how ignorant you are about it not proving things, being capable of change after the fact, we're not going anywhere, Tom, until you concede that, you slimy little lawyer.
Yeah, so again, if you're willing to let me explain my position, I'll be happy to do that. So what I was saying was, it is completely common parlance to say science prove X, or we prove this in our case, and that's inductive. So what that means is we're using empirical observation that relies on the senses. That is not the same as knowing something absolutely. And that's why I asked if you had ever seen The Matrix, right? Because
Sorry, I don't give a shit about The Matrix. We're talking about science and about how you don't know what it is. You think I need a segue onto science? Or about how law defines something? We're talking about science, something you know nothing about. You've used the words, you've got a vague idea about what it is, but you also think it doesn't prove things. You made that absolutely plain. This is now 14 attempts for you, Tom, to concede that you are incorrect when you claim it doesn't prove things. You are wrong. For that to be true, it would violate the law of non-contradiction built into a hypothesis. That's 14 times, you little weasel.
to be clear, I keep saying it does prove things under...
Right. So, Tom, given that it does prove things, that would be science, why on unholy hell would you tell us that it's open to change after the fact?
Because it is. Because
No. If it's proven something, Tom, it's proven. It's not open to interpretation after the fact. It's proven. That's what proof means.
So, keep in mind that anytime we are doing empirical research, we are relying on our senses as humans to do that.
No, we are not. We are implying anything. Nothing is being implied when we do experimentation. It is empirical by virtue of actualization of a hypothesis. You are wrong. Why are you still banging this crappy drum?
Okay, so could you give an example of an experiment?
Water boiling at 100 degrees at sea level. Cause heat. Natural phenomena, DV, that would be water boiling. Independent variable, that would be heat. So if heat, water boiling. If heat, not water boiling, being the null. You invalidate the null when you get it to boil. Now, no amount of times after that fact, that scientifically validated fact, will water not boil if you heat it. It's proven!
Are you familiar with...
Are you familiar with proof? Because it seems every time I show how stupid you are when you claim that things aren't proven with science. Oh, really? So we still have scurvy, do we, dipshit? You think that's not been proven? Lack of vitamin C? Proven with science, mate. You still think we've got scurvy, do you, Dumbo? You think that's going to change? Somehow lack of vitamin C won't be the cause because it's open to change?
Black swan is what I was...
Excuse me. You still aren't past the fact that you don't know what science is and you want to move to the black swan. No, we've already done that. We've done Earth curve. Yeah, and you've told us that we need science for this logical consistency. And I'm pointing out you don't know what science is to ask me to give it you for the black swan. You haven't got a clue what it is.
Not the photo.
You don't know what it is. You think it's open to change after the fact. So, I have then given you 2 experiments. One of which was vitamin C, cause of an effect. That would be scurvy, lack thereof, causes it. Proven with science. Do you think that's going to change sometime soon?
Do I think it will? No.
Yeah, well, you've just told us you think it'll open to change after the fact that science is, in fact, open to change, that you're not going to concede after 15 attempts for you to just concede that when you said it was open to change, you were wrong, and it only proves things.
Those are 2 different things. Saying
What, being provable and not open to change?
whether it's open to change... and
It isn't if it's proven. You just won't concede that because you're a slime ball.
So I don't think that we will soon find that vitamin C has nothing to do with scurvy.
Well, it's been proven by science, empirically, with experimentation, So, yeah, I'm pretty confident in that too, given that science proves things.
Yeah, so it's...
Yeah! So, your high-pitched little yeah is the thing I've been asking for 16 times.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah, it has. I know what I've been asking for 16 times. The concession that when you claimed science is open to change after the fact, because you're a moron, that you were in fact wrong, that it has empiricism by way of a null.
So do you agree with...
So do you think I need a question, you slimy little shit that's taken 17 attempts to concede how wrong he was about his ignorance in science?
Still haven't conceded, by the way.
Yeah, I know you haven't, you slimy little shit.
If somebody says...
Yeah, laugh it up, slime ball. Yeah, scurvy ain't going to change anytime soon. The cause has been established with science, as has the cause of water boiling. Yeah, these things are proven. They were established with nulls, an alternative hypothesis, so as to not violate the law of contradiction when they were put through the process. Yeah, they proved those things, Tom. You still think they're open to change, do you, Dumbo?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, then you're a Dumbo.
Well, obviously. Yeah.
Yes, you are indeed obviously a Dumbo, Tom. That's why I'm getting very frustrated and angry with you. You're thick.
It's ironic. It's one of my least favorite Disney movies. Keep going.
Sorry, you think we need to talk about Disney? No, we're talking about your ignorance when it comes to science, Tom. You're very, very difficult to talk to. Because even when you're proven wrong and demonstrated wrong, and given examples of how you were wrong, with experimentation that ain't changing anytime soon, because it's been proven by way of hypothesis actualization with its empiricism and ability to prove things, something that you thought was open to change at a later date because you're ignorant, Tom.
Would you be willing to listen to an example where maybe...
Would you be willing to concede when you're wrong, Tom? Because that's clearly never going to happen, is it?
Will I concede?
Will you stutter around the fact that you're wrong and you're being asked 18 times by a flat earther to concede your ignorance in science, which absolutely unequivocally proves things, Tom? Yeah, we'll stick here indefinitely, mate, while you ask me if I need to be asked questions, while we're focusing on your ignorance of science.
I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong. I'm not wrong on the point you are talking about, but maybe I can explain why if you give me a bit. And you may have cut out again, but I'll just start talking. Hopefully I'm not talking over anybody. So imagine we had a case where someone was accused of murder. And imagine...
Couldn't give a fuck. This is law. We're talking about science. Don't give a shit about your stupid law slime.
So do you think...
Did you understand what I said? This is a debate about the nature of reality, not conventions in law. Did you hear me?
I did, yes.
Right, so we're talking about the nature of reality. Your law about what the world is absolutely inconsequential, Tom. So your expertise here is basically worthless when it comes to law, because I couldn't give a toss.
Well, I certainly won't argue that legal expertise are useless, but...
I will. I'll argue when it comes to the nature of reality that science rules and law is irrelevant. If it's relevant, I'll allow it, and it's not. Science rules when it comes to the nature of reality. It deals with the physical and natural world. That's what we're talking about, Tom. If you want to talk about law and how law affects the nature of reality, then you're going to be struggling to find a forum to do that on, because it doesn't, Tom.
Yeah, so actually...
So shut up about law then, Tom, and understand implicitly that you don't know what science is, and that's what we deal with here.
A pretty good impression. If we ask how OJ...
So we're not asking about OJ, we're asking about the nature of reality. Earth curve, black swan, we haven't got Earth curve. You think it's a geometric limitation. Like a ball, and when I said it isn't, you asked me about whether or not I had science for it. And I've shown you don't know what science is, Tom.
Is a murder something...
Is a murder anything to do with the nature of reality, black swan, or the horizon that we're arguing about? Or is it some segue onto something that you think you know about, and therefore think it's relevant in this discussion about the nature of reality? That would be governed by natural science.
And so if O.J. Simpson...
No one gives a shit about O.J. Stop talking about O.J. Nobody cares.
That happened.
Nobody cares.
Right?
Are you being serious, man?
Are you being serious? Nobody cares about this. We're talking about the nature of reality. We're talking about the horizon. Your ball that you think is a geometric limitation that I've debunked with the black swan. That's a logical consistency that you challenge based on its lack of science. You don't know what science is, Tom, to challenge me on geometric limitations to Earth curve you thought were horizons taken from second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuums, Tom. You think we need to know about O.J. Simpson? You stupid man. And you stutter like a bitch when a flat earther tells you off. You are not in control of this conversation, retard. You're being told off for your ignorance in science by a flat earther, Tom. Understand what is happening here. You are being told off for your ignorance about science, which you know nothing of.
Worth it. This was so worth it.
What, being told off by a flat earther for your total ignorance about science while you try and segue onto fucking O.J. Simpson?
Are you familiar with cognitive behavioral therapy?
Sorry, Tom, the weasel who has attempted to segue away from his own ignorance pointed out by his opponent on no less than 19 occasions, thinks that somehow I need cognitive therapy while his weaselly, slimy actions get him shouted at for his ignorance in science. You think I need therapy for that, do you, Dumbo? No, I'll just sit here and tell you in front of a live audience how stupid you are, Tom. You don't know what science was. You didn't even know what a null was, did you, Tom? Yet you questioned whether or not I had scientific validity for a logical consistency argument, further demonstrating your ignorance in science. What's a null, Tom? You had to look it up. Yet you think you know what science is here, or can challenge me on the scientific validity of the black swan? You think you can challenge me on that, do you? The science? Wrong, Tom. You are the most ignorant person here, and we're not going to listen to you babble on about something you do know. That would be law. I'm sure you'd take me to task when it came to law, Tom, but that's not what's happening. You are being taken to task for your ignorance when it comes to science, Tom. That's what's actually happened.
Two things. I very clearly understand science better than you.
Do you fuck? You had to look up what a null was.
Yeah, because I was...
Yeah! So you're a lying piece of shit and you've just been proven so by me. You do not know what science is. You had to look up a null! You stupid retard!
I've also been trying...
You did not know what science is. You are, in fact, a liar. If you knew, as declared by your lying mouth, that you knew what it was, you wouldn't have had to look up a null. You lying piece of shit.
That's absolutely...
You had to look up everything.
Sorry, Tom, you're a lying piece of shit who just said you knew what science was. Wrong. You had to look up a null. You are a liar.
Yeah, that's a very weird thing to say. That's...
What, that somebody who declares they know what science was and then gets pointed out by their opponent that they had to look up what a null was actually is lying about knowing science and clearly doesn't, is just too embarrassed of his own ignorance and would rather lie about knowing what science is, because in a courtroom you only have to blag that you know what you're talking about, sound like you're intelligent, whereas here a flat earther will point out that not knowing what a null makes you a liar when you say you know what science is, Tom. You don't.
So I actually do corporate work.
Yeah, you don't do science work, Tom, because you're having your ass handed to you, currently by a flat earther who does know what science is. And when somebody who has to look up a null tells me they know what science is, the flat earther will tell them, with every ounce of disdain he can muster, that you are stupid, Tom.
Well, I know that.
Yeah, I know you're stupid, and I know you're a liar. Don't lie about knowing what science is here, Tom. It might work for you in a courtroom to lie about what you think you know. Here, we don't tolerate pretender clowns who lie about knowing what science is and then have to look up a null, because we just call them liars, Tom.
It'd be very similar to saying somebody doesn't know what law is if...
Sorry, we're not talking about law, you stupid idiot. Do you think segueing just by talking about what people in law talk about will get away from the fact that you don't know what science is, and saying, actually, I do know what science is, Mr. I have to look up what a null is, making me a clear liar? That's you, Tom, the liar.
No.
Liar. Liar.
Your premise...
Liar. You lied about knowing what science is and you don't, Tom. You've had to be corrected about it proving things.
If somebody can't define null off the top of their head,
then they don't know what the fuck science is. Yes, Tom, that's what I'm pointing out for my audience, that if you have to look up an integral part of hypothesis construction, then you definitely don't know what science is. That's right, Tom. And when you say you do, you're a liar, Tom. That's right, Tom.
You may know what science is and just...
I know what science is, Tom. You don't. You had to look up an integral part of it. That would be a null.
Because, as I said in my emails, I'm not formally trained in science. So...
No, you're fucking not kidding, but you just told me you knew what it was 30 seconds ago, making you a liar. You're not formal trained in it, but you're going to tell my audience that you know what it is when you clearly do not, making you a liar, Tom.
to be clear, I definitely understand it better than you based on what you're.
Oh, really? That sounds like an ad hominem attack. Oh, fascinating. In that case...
Here's the thing, is you can't even wait to hear what I'm saying.
I've heard what you've said, Tom. You said science doesn't prove things, Tom. Yeah, you told me that models were an integral part of science, Tom. You told me a lot of things, Tom. You also had to look up a null, an integral part of science. So you think you know more than science about science than I do because you are arrogant, Tom. Self-indulged, Tom. Delusional and a liar, Tom.
Inductive and deductive reasoning.
You know more.
Oh, he's just chanting through me now. Just chanting straight through the top of every word I say so he doesn't have to listen to me, pointing out what a liar he is, right, Tom? Don't have to listen if you chant through it. Yeah, knowing an integral part of hypothesis construction, that would be the formulation of a null, would be something that someone who, quote, knows science would know. You didn't. You are a liar. There is no two ways about that, Tom.
And
do you want to tell me I don't know what science is again, you smug little twat? Do you want to tell me I don't know what science is again then, Tom?
And I think...
Sorry, do you want to tell me I don't know what science is again, Tom?
In this situation.
Do you want to ad hom me with you don't understand science again?
I'm not sure that's an ad hominem.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it absolutely is an ad hominem. It's not an address to my argument about the black swan, the lack of geometric limitation, Earth curve, edge horizon, and the fact that you challenge that based on it not being science, something you don't know anything about. You don't know what a null is, an integral part of science. But yeah, every time I point that out, you seem to start talking through me, Tom, like some triggered fundy that doesn't like being told how wrong he is and how ignorant he is, and how he has to lie about what he knows. You said, and I quote, I know what science is, as he continues to chant through me, pointing out what a liar he is. You don't know science, Tom. Chanting through the top of me won't change what a massive liar you are. And that you've ad hom me by saying I don't know something I'm having to correct you on, as you continually chant through the top of me, so you don't have to listen to me, right, Tom? Just chanting through me, pointing out what a liar is, will mean you don't have to listen to it, right, Tom? Liar.
I wish I had
liar.
Did you have a point in coming here, Tom? What was your point?
His point was that I didn't have an
something?
argument with the black swan chocolate because it didn't have science, and my understanding of science was incorrect.
And as I was trying to
So
say,
you thought the black swan was science?
Yeah.
Hey, guy, you thought the black swan was science? Did somebody tell you that, or you just assumed that?
What I was going to say is when I brought up black swan. When I brought up black swan, I kept saying not the photo. What I was trying to talk about was that phenomenon
the logical
where
consistency?
in Europe, everybody... Excuse me?
Carry on.
What I was saying was there was that phenomenon, I think it was in Western Europe, where all of the swans were white, and so they just thought swans were white. And then eventually, they found out that wasn't true, right? Because I think somewhere else in the world there was a black swan or something to that effect, right? It's a fun historical fact.
Uh-huh.
It's Karl Popper. Yeah, we know the Karl Popper analogy. Yes, thank you.
And so that was my example of why science is tentative, right? Now,
that's not fucking science. You are so retarded. That's not science, you stupid moron.
And to answer the fellow's
Sorry, you stupid clown.
To ask me why I came on the show.
You are a clown. Stop talking. That is not science. Science is very tentative. After giving a logical consistency argument from Karl Popper, that's not science, you stupid idiot.
Yeah, you just illustrate your ignorance, bud.
So what I was trying to say was, that was not the point of me coming on the show from my perspective. I was hoping to talk about the differences in approach and the, different models, various flat earth models.
Yeah, you were here to talk about what you thought you knew, and you started off by telling us a vague, wishy-washy understanding of your stupidity when it comes to science, and how things about science and phenomena were going to be talked about, Tom. Yeah, we very quickly established that while you interrupted me pointing this out for about the 22nd time, you don't have the slightest clue what science even is. You had to look up what a null was, an integral part of the empirical method. It has its empiricism, the thing you didn't think it had, from a null, something you had to look up. But yet you're still here telling us you know what science is and challenging us on our ethos.
Yes, I do know what science is, and
No, you fucking don't! Yeah, you arrogant prick! You haven't got a fucking clue what science is. You are stupid.
If anyone here would like to talk...
If anybody here would like to berate this fuckwit for not knowing what science is, take it away right now. I'm done. Feel free to berate this complete clown for his lack of understanding when it comes to science. Go.
We can chat.
He's confused abductive reasoning with deduction and induction. It's as simple as that. He doesn't know what science is, and he's failing.
Okay, so...
Tom, shut up! What you're now going to have is a string of flat earthers point out how fucking stupid you are. Sit there and listen to everyone else tell you how stupid you are. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I got 9 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, good. You can have 9 minutes of everyone on the panel telling you don't understand what science is. After your second time around, after 18 attempts having been proven how it proves things, that you don't understand what science is after looking up a null, you're still here declaring that you know what it is. Wrong. And you're going to be told by others now how wrong you are.
You stated that you had no formal training in science, but now you act as if you do.
And when asked for an example, Nathan gave you 2 examples. What's your story?
And then you want to point
I'm
out
wondering why he was under the impression the Black Swan was scientific.
Because you don't know what science is.
Then he goes to the analogy that about finding a black swan somewhere that makes it science not being tentative.
No, that just shows you don't know what science is. Don't you understand? He's proven you don't know what science is.
Yeah, he just you just definitely just showed all your cards. You have no bluffs.
Pure arrogance.
The nature of our...
Total over-the-top arrogance. Thinks he knows better. Because he's got a discipline that he's experienced in law. Suddenly he thinks, well, I must know better than flat earthers, so I'll start talking about science. Something he hasn't got the slightest idea in, but he thinks because he's peppered it with a disclaimer, oh, that's not my professional field, so I'll waffle on about it like I know what I'm on about.
And then say he understands it better than you. If anybody
yeah, what a cheat. The guy looks up a null after me asking him what a null is. Oh, I don't know, maybe I'll look it up. Oh, but I know science better than you do. Oh, of course you do. Yeah. Keep chanting that shite, you arrogant twat.
Even better, he claims that you can't know things for... He claims you can't know things for certain, and then started making knowledge claims about us.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, exactly.
Tom, you got that just pumped the neighbor's cat look on your face yet, like I told you you'd have last night?
Yes. Quantum Eraser said I would have a certain look on my face.
Just pumped the neighbor's cat look on your face. Did you reach that point yet? Sounds like you have.
So my inquiry was how he knows.
So your inquiry is horse shit. Your definition of hypothesis was incorrect. It's not a falsifiable explanation. Let's go through this. A hypothesis isn't a falsifiable explanation, you clown. It's not an explanation at all. It's a predictional supposition in the natural cause and effect relationships. Also, your appeal to induction. Science has nothing to do with induction. Karl Popper said it doesn't have nothing to do with induction, and his friggin' trophy proof was the black swan. All swans are white. You clown fuck. So, your little Google search science acumen's not gonna fly here, son. Pretender clown space monkey. What's a hypothesis? Yeah, you better run.
What's a hypothesis? A falsifiable explanation for a set of phenomena.
No, it's not. It's a predictional supposition in the natural cause and effect relationships. What are the 2 parts of a hypothesis?
What is the look somebody has on their face when they pump the neighbor's cat?
When we look at you right now.
The kind of look that somebody who doesn't know what the fuck to do would start babbling on about O.J. Simpson when they're asked about what science is.
Told you.
The one who would ask that question just now.
Yeah, that's what you do. So me, I did hi-fi as a career.
Because
So when being held up against the wall by a globe or on something I don't understand, if I start going, well, in hi-fi...
I've never seen somebody do that to a cat, and it sounds like you all have.
This guy's an idiot. He's annoying me.
Is that what you got now?
The problem is, following on with this conversation, Tom, to be brutally honest with you, Tom, the conversation's not a reasonable one. Because when you, the slimy lawyer, decides that he's going to talk straight through the middle of somebody who's already in the middle of a sentence, you're just going to talk straight through the middle of them when they're in the middle of a sentence, pointing out how unreasonable you are. That would be to say that when you're demonstrated incorrect, yeah, you'll laugh, tie the mic up, do those sorts of things. That's that just pump the neighbour's cat look when you chant through somebody who's concisely detailing how unreasonable it is to make a declarative statement that you can't prove things with science, it's open to interpretation, and then demonstrated by way of the law of non-contradiction violation that would be hypothesis construction if it didn't prove things. You still, after, I think it was 20 attempts, still declared that you knew what science was. Yeah, you don't. You're just like every other globe-believing idiot. Here to tell us how ignorant we are because you've got a specialist field you've got in law. But you know absolutely nothing about the nature of the world, and you only go by the vague understanding you've got from Googling things on the fly. It's pathetic, Tom. That's why we can't continue the conversation about Earth curve, because when it comes to you saying, well, this isn't really science that you're offering in the form of the black swan, and we're like, no, it's not claiming to be a systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis at all. It's a logical consistency argument, but you're asking me why it's not science. You know, that's never going to go anywhere because we're dealing with a thicko. Somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. Somebody who's pretending to know what science is. So how are we going to appeal to somebody like that, Tom? We can't take the conversation further. You're too thick. You don't know what we're talking about when we say empiricism. You have to ask us what proof means. I mean, how thick are you if you have to ask me what proof means after you personally clarified it 2 minutes earlier? You're not a reasonable person to talk to. You're a slimy, scummy lawyer, Tom.
So that last part is definitely true. The part about being reasonable, I feel like it would help if in the first 35 minutes or so you would have not interrupted me as much.
Fuck you, Tom. I'll do as I damn well fucking please when you take 21 attempts to deny the fact that you haven't got a fucking clue about science.
I feel like you also had a rule about profanity in the
Yeah, fuck you and the horse you rode in on, you stupid clown. You don't know what science is.
I had a horse. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, you laugh it up, stupid idiot. You don't know what science is, but you're here debating the nature of reality with me.
Well, Nathan, I have
Do you want to talk about OJ again, shit for brains?
I would love to.
Yeah, stutter for me, bitch.
I let you know.
Yeah, stutter for me, bitch.
What's that?
Stutter for me, bitch. You and your OJ Simpson appealing ass haven't done very well here. And the reason you haven't done very well is because you appeal to things you had a vague understanding of, in this case, science. You don't know very much about it, but you're more than happy. Tell me I don't know what it is after having to look up an integral part of hypothesis construction that would be null. Proving to everybody who watches this show that you do not know what science is, yet even in spite of that, you're still telling us you do. Making you a twat. Well, an unreasonable twat, Tom, who can't concede when he's wrong, Tom.
You said stutter for me, bitch.
Yeah, that's right. Stutter for me, bitch.
You just have to take me to dinner first. I'll do anything you want.
Concede that you don't know what science is, then.
Have to take me to dinner first.
So concede you don't know what science is.
I'm not sure.
I'm stuttering like a bitch! No dinner required!
Speak?
Yeah, no dinner required, Tom.
But it looks like that's not going to happen, so I had a good time, everybody. Have a
good time not conceding a damn thing that you didn't know about? Why did you think that was a good time? It was pathetic, irritating. Spending 20 attempts to get somebody to concede something they were clearly wrong about. It was just you being an unreasonable prick. You being an unreasonable prick wasn't fun.
And if anyone's interested in...
Nobody's interested in anything other than you conceding what an unreasonable prick you haven't been.
In a bit more reasonable way than Nathan's capable of, just let me know.
Sorry, is it reasonable to take 22 attempts to concede that when something has an empirically built-in method to prove something, that it doesn't not prove things? You think 22 attempts is reasonable?
He left. He ran away.
So it's always the way that they project their completely and totally unreasonable nature on me because I've got frustrated with them after 20 or 21 attempts of getting him to concede that he doesn't know what science is. Now, the audience, most of them are familiar. I don't get very many new people here. So everyone watching knows what science is. They all know. So every one of them in the audience, unless they're thick or globe-believing, they'll say, yeah, science is empirical, it proves things. Having been given a demonstration verbally on the show of if A not B, or if A then B, you understand the law of non-contradiction that would have to be violated to not prove things after that process. Exactly as was explained to him But even then, he thinks it's me being unreasonable for wanting him to concede his total ignorance. Oh yeah, that's totally unreasonable. Really, we should move forward with your vague understanding of science that's wrong, so you can hold me to task on your wrong understanding of it when we move further down the line in discussion. Because that's reasonable, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? No, the unreasonable, slimy prick lawyer has just projected his unreasonable nature straight onto me after 21 attempts at getting to concede something he didn't understand.
I thought it was pretty amazing how you took his affirming the consequent about the horizon with the tennis ball and placed it into the black swan modus tollens. That was cleverly done. Good job.
Oh, well, thank you. Nothing unreasonable in my behaviour getting irritated after multiple attempts to get somebody to concede something that everybody here knows is wrong. That's why I asked the panel to say, tell him how wrong he is. Because he's just decided to tell me personally, Nathan Oakley, you don't understand what science is when you're asking me for a null. Ooh, why would I look up a null? Obviously, I know everything about science, so why would I look it up? Because I know everything about science. You don't. The one leading me.
That was just one housekeeping question. Jeez, imagine the other one.
Yeah, it demonstrates the retarded nature of the audience who comment and say, where's your scientific evidence of flat Earth? That's not cause and effect relationship, you stupid clown. If it's not a cause and effect relationship, it's outside the purview of scientific inquiry. And that's exactly what's going on here. This guy doesn't understand what is inside or outside the purview of scientific inquiry. So he thinks that he can somehow sandwich in a Karl Popper example with the black swan to not being science. It's like, at base level, you really don't understand what this is. I do, you don't. That's not an ad hom.
He came in to teach you, Nathan.
They
That's
all
the
do.
problem, right from Jump Street.
They all do. And when they're being taught what they don't know, they can't quite believe their ears.
He didn't study long enough. There's no way that he watched this show long enough because his arguments were weak. Like, he may have watched the show a couple times, but he did not. He didn't do a good job. I wouldn't hire him to represent me in any case.
Oh, I'm sure he's a wonderful lawyer, and I couldn't care less either way, good or bad. Doesn't fuss me in the slightest, because it's irrelevant. You know, people with an expertise in something that are good at their job, well, so what? If you're a fantastic engineer, does that mean that you're going to come here and suddenly win a debate about the nature of world and the scientific method? Absolutely not.
Yeah, but if your job is to study and to know the meaning of words, and you can't even, like, come to any consensus about that, you know, if all you do is play in the words, then you're not doing your job very well, I wouldn't think.
Play on words? They've got their own bloody language. They've got legalese.
Yeah, but the legalese is actually, you know, defined pretty well. The language that we use to talk to each other is the one that's corruptible.
Maybe. And though it was, I'm not going to move past a non-concession, because if the fundamental parts of the argument are about nature, the world, that is directly linked to science, and a non-understanding of science isn't going to be something that we can progress the argument with. So if anybody sits and goes, why did you spend 40 minutes insisting that he goes through the scientific method and his concession that he didn't understand it? Well, because if he doesn't, then we cannot progress the conversation. There's nowhere to go unless he concedes.
Sounds like my point from the beginning, and it started last week when I said for him to define what straight was versus curved, and now you're doing it with the scientific method, so it's pretty obvious.
Adam, did you want to get a word in before I round out the live show and ask everyone to stay tuned if they're watching on an after show?
No, other than I understood what he was doing. I've been sat here at work listening, but I assumed the show had finished, to be honest. But yeah, until it's clarified, he's just going to use that lack of agreement to try and flim-flam his. It was very odd. Keep pulling it back to a legal argument as if there's no difference. But yeah, reminded me of a year or two ago, that same argument. But I always think it's crucial. You can't move forward with the way he was wanting to on a false premise.
Exactly. It's a stumbling point based on the Socratic method. At some point, you've got to agree on the definition of what words means. In this case, science, experiment, hypothesis. That's what we're talking about. Or in his case, that's what he's not talking about. And until you can get the person to actually accept that, then you're going to carry on not talking about science and using the words of science like hypothesis. Well, that's not tolerable here. We know what those words mean. He definitely didn't, but is more than willing to ad hom me and tell me that I don't understand what science is. Right, whatever. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming Streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
See, you won't wait.
I was like, I couldn't get anything, man. I wanted to.
Shut your damn mouth. He had plenty of time to train wreck himself, and he did. He fucked up what a hypothesis was. That was right from the get-go. That's what I heard.
Who's moaning?
He'd failed fifth grade general science.
Someone moan?
Fuck. Ubin.
Sorry,
yeah,
Kiwi.
he said
Sorry,
that a black swan analogy about finding a black swan compared to thinking that it was all white swans was a scientific experiment or whatever. It was science.
Yeah, didn't understand what science was. Sorry, Kiwi, I didn't mean to cut it off. I just joined back and heard somebody saying words to the effect of, he didn't get enough time.
Yeah, he's a ball-tard sympathizer.
Bro, I'm not a sympathizer, but I did want to hear a debate. I wanted to hear a back and forth, a true back and forth.
You did.
Hold on. Hold on, Kiwi. Hold on.
That was a bashing. You guys were smashing him, man. You wouldn't even let him talk.
He deserved it, man.
Yeah, he wouldn't concede that he didn't know what science was.
Who's the guy that was talking? I want to hear him. Everyone else who's talking over him. You're right, and I agree with you, but I just want to hear what he's got to say. Who was it that was talking a minute ago? The ball guy? Ubin. Go ahead. Feel free. Express your disapproval. Go ahead.
I simply wanted to hear a back and forth where one person would make a point, the other would debate it, and I just felt like the guy Tom was getting interrupted every single time. And, and he really didn't get a word in. And whenever he would make like a small mistake, forget about it. It's over. And he's just not going to be able to say anything else for the rest of it. And I was like, damn, I really didn't get to hear I get a lot of good stuff from you guys, but I really didn't get to hear the other side. And that's kind of like what I wanted to hear.
Sure. But his criticism of the modus tollens argument, Ubin, was to say it doesn't reach scientific standards. I'm summarising and paraphrasing just for ease. But if at that point, if his criticism of my argument regards his tennis ball example is that it's not of a high enough scientific standard, then at that point I've got to establish what that is, because that's his rebuttal to the black swan. So where am I supposed to go if he cannot concede that his understanding of something that is not empirical doesn't adhere to the empirical method? At that point, where can I go? If you can tell me what I should have done different, I'm all ears.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, shit. Yeah, I guess. Damn. All right, my bad.
No, let me ask you this.
No, don't apologise. The reason I asked you to do that is because I wanted the conversation to move on. The reason I've started numbering the times that I have to repeat the same point is because I don't want somebody after the fact, I'm not saying this is you, but it is you, says, you weren't reasonable, you didn't let him get his argument in. I'm like, no, we're arguing within the Socratic method. We have to agree on what words mean. If we don't, and I understand science means empirical, proven, and he understands science means, could change later, then the conversation cannot progress, because his rebuttal is integral to his understanding of science changing after the fact. That's what he thinks it is, incorrectly so. So I couldn't move on. I'm frustrated. I wanted a good argument too. We just didn't get it because he refused to concede like all of them do.
Correct. That was disappointing as well.
Uben, do you think that law has anything to do with science?
No, I mean, it's two completely different fields.
Right. So he was trying to give him a law analogy to compare it to science.
No, I get it. I get it, man.
Disappointed.
I just felt like it was kind of harsh, bro. I just wanted to hear the other side, and I felt like I didn't get it.
Asked him,
but I get why you had to do that.
Coming on the show was, do you remember that? When I asked him what his point was, and then he went into, I don't know, describing the origins of the black swan, and then he went into how science is tentative. You see what he did there? He jumped from black swan to science. Now, we all know.
Don't let that phone get you in trouble. Hey, listen, Mike's already said something about 2 or 3 times, and 2 other people at work.
Oh, who's that?
Don't have to do nothing about it.
Somebody's mic's open.
Yeah, somebody's mic's open.
Okay.
I think Chocolate's getting told off, actually.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
That was me.
That's great.
Yep. All right, so what the hell was I saying before I get in trouble?
The black swan.
Black swan.
Black swan and science segue.
See how he jumped from the black swan and then he went into science. But we all know the black swan isn't a scientific validation, right? It's not scientific experiment. It's not science. It's never been claimed to be that. So if that's his point in being here, and that's where he has to stand, we have to stop him right there. He cannot continue the conversation in the wrong understanding of what the black swan is and what science is. And I didn't hear him have to look up null, but if you came in here and you had to look up what a null hypothesis is, you're not ready for this. Feel me?
Yo, hold on. He had to look up everything. And if it's outside of science, then what is the black swan, Chocolate?
It's logic. If it's claimed to be science, then it would be pseudoscience, but it's not claimed to be science. So it's.
But it is an observation, correct?
The logical consistency argument.
From an observation, right?
Yes.
It's a logical consistency argument.
The evidence to back. Hold on. Let me just answer that for Neil. The argument, Neil, is the modus tollens formulation. If the Earth's sphere radius 3959, every distance to horizon will be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And the image in the black swan, that's the photograph, shows the horizon beyond the geometric limitations of an Earth sphere radius 3959. Therefore, the horizon's not Earth curve and the Earth's not a sphere. Well, that conclusion.
I know what it is.
Yeah, Neil. The evidence that supports that logical consistency is the photograph. That's the observation. So you can't say the argument is the photograph. It isn't. The argument is the logical consistency within the modus tollens.
But
right. I was just saying, but it started from an observation. That's all I meant.
But Nathan and Chocolate, I don't think he was talking about the actual black swan argument. I think he thought. I swear his conclusion was that the actual black swan, meaning the all swan being white, and then all of a sudden finding a black swan, was actual science.
Yeah, right.
No. Stop. What he thought was the declarative statement that all swans are white would be considered science. And then when you show that they're not all white, that shows that science is tentative and can change. That was what he was trying to claim.
Correct.
They're just totally stupid, basically. Just thick as shit.
Yeah, that means all swans are white is not science to begin with, because that was Karl Popper's shining example of the problem of induction. And this fucking guy said science was nothing but induction. He's so twisted and convoluted, Tom. I bet that cat's disappointed.
Well, I thought it was really nice, and it was. I think the reason he went to that was because Nathan took his affirming a consequent, where he held up the tennis ball and said, see, it's blocking your view, and well, he took that and twisted it into the black swan argument, and pretty much ripped his head off, and then he wants to Like, he wants to get away from that. So that's why it was more of a red herring than anything, because he knows at some basic level, he knew he had been crushed.
I told him. I warned him.
Yeah, I think Nathan gave him a backhand on that tennis ball.
Very good.
Curie, sounds like you talked to him earlier. When was this?
I've been talking to this numpty dipshit for, I don't know, a week. Just bashing him. Then he started ignoring me and talking to other people. Of course, other flat earthers would indulge him, which was pissing me off. And then he kept on. I said, get your ass in VC into the show. So that's when he, made his little appointment. And last night I was just mucking around. I stepped into Discord and he was there with another weasel named Skrex or some shit. And I said, why don't you both go on the show? I'll be in there. I'll leave you with that just pump the neighbor's cat look on your face. But I was sleeping in this morning, but I figured he'd get that face anyway. And I was right.
Yeah, that sums it up nicely. Other flat earthers may indulge these things, and I might get stick for not indulging them because you want to hear, how's he going to try and prove this sphere or debunk a flat earth? Well, how he's going to do it is going to be utilising a misapprehension about what science is, and if that's part of the argument, they can't progress until that's conceded. So, frustrating for everybody. Frustrating for me. I get angry. After about 10 times getting somebody concede something, I start to get angry. Any reasonable person would. So if people want to give me crap in the comments after the fact, it's like I'm so used to it after 4 years. It's like, I don't care. If you want to try and reason with somebody like that, what you will end up doing if you behave the way you want me to behave is pandering to them. Okay, well, we'll just agree to disagree about what science is. What's your proof? Fuck that.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, it's just bad for them, Like, really, the dip angle measurement was all they had, and they threw that away with the black swan. So, where do they go except into sophistry and hiding behind mathematics? They ain't got nothing now.
He's your typical pretender clown that doesn't know his ass from a pipe wrench, and he just got his ass handed to him because he should, because he's pretending to be something that he's not. That's what all baltards are, pretending to be something that they're not, and then they get compromised. Not knowing what a null hypothesis is, not knowing what a null hypothesis is, when claiming you know what science is tantamount to the chairman of the Texas Beef Association not knowing what a ribeye is.
I know what cars are. Yeah. I know all about cars. Yeah. What's a carburetor? Carburetor? What's a carburetor? What's that got to do with cars? Well, it's integral to some old cars. Well, I don't even know what that is. Let me look it up.
I was waiting for you to ask him to do the black swan through a hypothesis. So if I dye the white swan black, is it still a swan?
We didn't get to that stage. We got to describing what a hypothesis was, and he wouldn't concede. So I gave him what if A then B, or if A not B. And at that point, when I'm saying, okay, now you've had that explained to you, will you concede that it can only prove things? No. So how am I going to get him to put what he thinks is science, that's black swan in this case, into a hypothesis? I can't, because at that point, he doesn't agree that the hypothesis that I've presented to him in the form of if A then B, or if A not B in the null, is in any way true. He's saying, no, I don't agree with that. I still think that it can be changed after the fact. Even after giving him 2 examples of experiments, he still thought it could be changed after the fact and said no. So it's like, but like I say, there will be commenters that say, well, yeah, you're still unreasonable. You should have pandered to him.
Can I comment here on something that I think everybody observes, but the show magnified? In the real world, most people are listening to con artists, and it's too late when they find out they're con artists because they either got robbed of money or property. And they have pains and hurts. If I only knew, if I only knew. And so what this show does is when they come in with arguments in the debate forum and the argument can't hold water, we say, we're not moving on until you, person on the other side trying to push this thing, can validate your point. If you can't validate it, you must concede. If you concede, then we can continue. Now, if people did that in the real world with salesmen and con artists, they wouldn't get ripped off.
Nathan, he didn't know what a steering wheel was. Forget about a car.
Yeah, that's the comparison, Neil. You're right. When it comes to carburetor, I thought about it after the example. It's like, well, no, that could be reasonable. If you had a very new mechanic who just happened to never worked on a car like that, then that's pretty fair. But steering wheel is a much better example because the null is so integral to the method. So if you don't know what a steering wheel is, and then you go, oh yeah, I know all about cars. Or axle, that would be a better example, because it's not so obvious. You could easily have somebody who could drive a car and, not know what an axle was.
Guess where he's at now? Back to chat skanking. He's in chat.
Yeah, that's why I don't look at chat. It would just annoy me.
That's pride messing with him.
That's just pride fucking with you. Yeah, I don't even look at chat.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. It's pride fucking with him right now.
Yeah, he was proud of being more intelligent than us and knowing what's what. So at the point that he's proven wrong, he cannot accept that because it's just so far removed from what he was expecting to happen.
Well, last week he told us he could only do it for an hour because he had to get to work, and now he's in the chat.
I don't draw any conclusions from that. It just means he can't sit around talking to us, being shouted at for not knowing what science is for any longer.
Nah. He was disingenuous from the beginning. You could tell that.
No, that's not true. Hold on, Neil. Were you here in the pre-show, Neil? Yeah, you were. So in the pre-show, I didn't challenge him on anything. In fact, I stopped you from challenging him at one stage, Neil. I let him talk. I let him babble on all he liked about his misapprehensions about science. So when he lied, I didn't make that declaration that it doesn't prove things. Yeah, you did. I allowed you to and led you to. Made damn sure no one interrupted while you did it. So, he thought, when he was babbling on about that shite, that he knew exactly what was what. Oh, don't I sound clever? Because no one's interrupting him, nobody's challenging him while he babbles on about models being part of the science. Nobody was going to be challenging him either, because I wanted him to lay it all out. All of his ignorance got laid out in the pre-show, without interruption at all. And it was all very amiable, because he thought he was the smartest one in the room at that point, didn't he?
Yeah, that was great. That was just, that was wonderful how you did lead him to say science does prove things. And then he wanted to jack around on what prove means after the fact.
Yeah, tied that down in the pre-show too. So I asked him first off, because I thought he's a law guy, so rather than asking him what proof is, I'll ask him what he thinks evidence is. And when he's describing how it's leading you to the truth and all those weasel words in law that he used, although he said he just looked up the definition on the spot, when I clarified with him, so it's the stuff that proves things then, he was like, yeah. So then after the fact, when it comes to, okay, so we've got experimental validity and proof by way of the null, it's like, well, what do you mean by proof? Well, we've already clarified this, dickhead, haven't we? You little weasel.
Yeah, that was good. You're going to cut that together, or can you edit that together?
Oh, hell yeah, I'll edit that together. But it's out on a live show, so typically those things don't happen because people are too scared to do it on the live show, whereas he was insistent on being in that time frame for convenience, so he just ended up going like live. So how much of it is necessary? I don't know. I'll have to have a look at the live show.
I personally think you don't need to cut anything. If you play the beginning of the pre-show to the end of the live show, the context alone would kill them.
Well, this discussion after the fact is also useful, so this is going to be a very good couple of hours. So I'm pleased with today's result. I wasn't expecting that. I forgot he was coming. If it wasn't for someone in Discord saying, oh, by the way, that Tom guy's coming, I was like, oh, yeah.
I was kind of disappointed. I thought he was going to be a little bit more reasonable. But then, I didn't know anything about him. It just kind of let me down a little bit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Last week he made it sound like he was on the fence. You know, I'm on the fence. I'm willing to listen. But he turned out to be an asshole.
Yeah, I guess saying that you don't know what the difference between straight and curved and like Tenth said, you know, there's a problem when you can't distinguish between the two. You know, I guess that's, I don't know.
No, that's precisely. No, you said it well. That's exactly the point. And you do know that's why you're saying it. We just have to call a spade here. I can't have a discussion with anybody about the nature of Earth if they don't know the difference between straight and curved. I'll just stop. There's no reason. You know, pass the chips.
Well, yeah,
Snacks are in the back.
Or just any grown adult that says science doesn't prove
between
things.
straight
That
and
statement
curved.
alone is just so absurd.
I didn't hear a word anybody
I was going
said.
to say, just 1 sec from G+, whoever that was from Discord, can you repeat that?
Any grown man claiming science doesn't prove things just sounds absolutely absurd.
Now it does, I'll agree with you. But that's thanks to Quantum Eraser and his education. So, prior to that, not knowing any better, why would you necessarily not? You wouldn't necessarily know that isn't the case. But now, yeah, I completely agree with you. Hearing it now just irritates me. Science is advanced. Go on.
Yeah, no, I was saying, all you got to do is look up any university and see all the science departments. You mean they have these departments that are based on nothing? Classes based on nothing?
Well
Yeah.
said.
Hold on, yes.
Who would spend a lick of time doing science if it didn't prove it?
Yeah, that's QE's question. Well, what would be the point in doing it? Again, I tried to lead him down that path, although I didn't get there because I wanted him to be talking and digging his own grave at that point. But, you know, I did try and essentially lead him to that also in the pre-show, which is to say, well, what's the point of doing it? I didn't overtly state that because I don't want to give the game away too early. But I was trying to lead him to that exact conclusion. So what's the purpose of doing this? What are we trying to achieve with this? You know, I'm just leading him in a certain direction. Because exactly what's the point of doing it then? Just to give us a vague idea that might change later. Yeah, I can come up with that with a pen and paper.
It sounded like he was about to go down the train wreck of it only disproves things, but that's still proving something, you know, which is a train wreck.
It sounds like the globe side has become science deniers that they used to call us. That's all that sounds like to me.
That's exactly what they are, Chocolate.
It's a terrible slippery slope as well, and you can empathise with their cognitive pain when you think about it like that. So, 2015, their strongest attack on us was that we were science-denying idiots with crazy notions and crazy models that didn't work. Just fast forward to now, it's like we're having to educate our opponents in their complete misunderstandings and misapprehensions about what science is and isn't. And in doing so, they're, you know, projecting their own unreasonable nature back onto us when we don't let them do it. It's like, no, we're not going to tolerate your pseudo-science assertions anymore. Especially not going to tolerate you telling us that we're science deniers when we're breaking down what science actually is, how it's empirical, how it's advanced humanity, how all it does is prove things.
The only thing that's happening now is they're realizing, some of them, that back then it was pseudoscience peddled as science. And now when we're holding their feet to the fire, they're realizing it's always been pseudoscience and never science. So they have to throw science under the bus because they need their model more than the truth.
But their model's no longer, I mean, if I made a model of a Camaro, I would take measurements of that Camaro and I would shrink it down or enlarge it to match that Camaro proportionately. Their model is no longer based on measurements when they lose the curvature.
Right, but that's the whole point of investigation, to see if it was science to begin with or pseudoscience. And we're finding out it's all been pseudoscience and orthographic views of images that lead the believer to think that's how they see, and perspectives left out. And we can go on and on this. But the jig is up. You know, when they, back in the day, when it first started, they said the ships are disappearing bottom first. But they all knew at the same time that water finds its own level. So they had empirical fact that water finds its own level, but they couldn't figure out perspective of why the ships were disappearing bottom first. So they said, oh, we must be on the sphere. But at the same time they have to say that, they have to realize water cannot stay level on the sphere, and that's empirically true. So what did they go with? They went with the model, they went with the lie. It's insanity. In one hand, you know what it is and what it can't be. On the other hand, you have to push Copernicus.
Yeah, they got pseudoscience. I think that's what this guy's confused with. He understands pseudoscience better.
I did like your analogy, though, but when you talk about it with a Camaro, if you've got a model of a Camaro and it's a perfectly functional scale model in every respect, obviously no such thing exists, but just for the sake of this discussion, everything about it is the same. It's an actual built scale model of a Camaro, runs, gearbox, the lot. Well, you can compare that directly to the in-existence Camaro that's on the road, the full-size one. Now, John said you can compare the measurements of the model to the real thing. But the moment you take away any claim of any measurement being capable of being made in the real thing itself, then you stop having the real Camaro. So it then becomes comparable to a CAD drawing of a concept car. So you look at the drawing and you go, well, what's powering it? Well, it's a combination of solar and hydrogen. And you go, okay, well, can I see the measurement of that on the real one? And you go, well, there is no real one. The measurements only exist in this program. They only exist in the model. There is no real one for me to draw a tape measure over it to show how it's 1/10 scale. It only exists in the maths. So you go, well, so there isn't a real version of this then? No, there is no real comparison to run a tape measure along. It just exists in this program. It just exists as a model. And that's what the globe has become. It just exists in the maths. It doesn't exist. There's no tape measure you can compare in the real full-scale version, because there isn't a real full-scale version of it. There used to be an assertion that you could run the tape measure along the Camaro to the horizon, comparably speaking, on a globe Earth. No longer the case. So the model only exists in the maths. That's globe, by the way. The globe model only exists in the maths.
Yeah, but how can they invoke the mathematics without a measurement, is what I'm saying. Like, how do you tie that to reality? You can't. I mean, I'll just go ahead and say it, you can't.
That's why it's pseudoscience.
Well, it's not science at that point. It's what is. It's just not is.
No, I know, but it's the wrapping paper. It's the pseudoscience. The what is the lack of measurements, and they've combined the two. So people, because the media, the schools, everybody's pushing it, and people have better things to do in life. And so just accept it. So it's just planted. The programming is there. So when someone says they lied to you, the earth is flat, but then the programming for that kicks in. Oh, these are conspirators. These are people who still think the world is flat. So they've already made that sound like if you're in that camp, you're an idiot. But in fact, they're the idiots because they've never had science. They've never had measurements. They haven't had anything.
Yeah.
We're
Hey,
the
morning.
conspirators. when literally in NASA documents it says, we assume the Earth to be flat, stationary. Oh, yeah. But the guys running around saying the Earth is flat, stationary, those are crazy people. But look at these pictures we got. It's a fucking joke.
Hey, Tom.
He's still here?
I think he's
Just in
chat
case
syncing.
he's listening into the last part of the show.
What did you say? What?
I said, hey, Tom. Yeah.
Oh, Tomcat.
No. Goodness, are you guys slow? Didn't you hear what I said when I first came in?
No.
Neil. I said, go on the show, Tom, and I'm going to leave you with that just pump the neighbor's cat look on your face. You get it now?
What's to get? Is anybody not tracking with this?
It's like getting caught with your pants down and out.
Yeah. I got that.
So he said that to him. Now he's meowing at him. You know, kind of driving the point home.
Is that like leaving your pants while not changing the pants that you're in?
That would be a cool move. Boy, have the tables turned.
Oh, don't talk to Akumi. I've got things to do today. Oh, he's not here. Thank God.
He might be licking his wounds on that sextant argument.
He's so done. He won't even show up anymore.
No, he's in chat talking about how Tent doesn't know what he's talking about. Trust me.
That's fine. So come on the show tomorrow because we don't.
He doesn't understand that that's how he's destroying Temp's argument.
They don't even know what a 90 degrees is.
Yo, do you remember that when he said, "You see how I'm attacking your argument"? He said that to Nathan.
That's why I said it.
Oh,
yep.
It's hysterical.
What delusional as opposed to hysterical?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's sad, really, more than anything. It's almost pathetic. I mean, if you're masochistic, it might be funny, I guess.
I think most of them are that way. They just desire attention no matter how it comes.
Well, this guy was the same way. He said that you just proven to me that I understand science better than you, Nathan.
Well, how could that be true when he said he had no formal training in science?
Listen, if everything you're going to say has to have a condition like if the Earth is a ball with said dimensions, then I don't want it. Because I don't care what you can derive from your assumption. I want to have definitive evidence of the claim itself. If all of this stuff is going to be happening in a heliocentric universe on a ball where everything is the opposite of what we experience and the math works out tailored to that ball of that specific size, the first thing I want to know is who the fuck told you that we live on a ball of that size? Where the fuck is? Oh wait, is it after show yet? Where is the evidence? That's all I want to know.
There is no evidence. That's what we do here daily.
But you started it correctly there, Eli. Everything they have is based on assumptions. Sunlight coming in parallel, assumptions. The angle being achieved at the center of a sphere, assumptions. It's all assumptions.
I think you're getting confused between assumptions and imaginations.
It was a couple of ballbusters ago that you covered what an IV needs to qualify as an IV. But that's the problem there, isn't it? They've not only got the hijacking of hypothesis as an explanation when it's merely a supposition, of course, yet to be validated. They take that and then insert an invented, made-up, non-existent IV.
Well, it probably happened real quick. He said, you asked him to define a hypothesis, and he said it was a falsifiable explanation. And you train wrecked him a couple steps later, but that's incorrect. Right at the core. Right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's when I woke up, I come on the show, and that's what I heard. So I just heard, I can't wait to hear the pre-show and the beginning of the show. I can't wait for that.
Oh, that'll just frustrate you. That was just him left to his own devices to talk shite.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just so I could use it against him in the live show, so I wanted to get clarity on certain things, specifically his misapprehensions about what science was. But while he was divulging his misapprehensions, Neil was too keen to say, that's wrong! I was like, shh, let him speak, just let him get to the end of his misapprehension, let it get committed to record with a little bit of leading.
Well, that solves Ubin's problem then. Ubin, go ahead and listen to the pre-show. What number is this?
1526.
1526, Ubin. Listen to the pre-show.
Yeah, okay. I think I got the answer a long time ago already, though. You guys made it clear.
All right.
I'll listen to it, though. Either way, I listen to you guys all day, man. Thank you.
Yeah. I know it's hard to not feel sorry for them. I understand that. I had that for about the first 30 seconds I was here in the community, and that quickly went away. But I can relate.
Yeah, I have little to no empathy for them, because at the beginning of the debate, the tables were turned, and socially it's accepted when it's the other way around. Socially, it is perfectly reasonable to call us idiots and assume that we're thick, and tell us so, and assume you're the smartest person in the room when you're surrounded by flat earthers, all of which will be employed, carte blanche, regardless of where you're coming from, how expert you are in whatever field you're claiming. They'll all do it. Now, when the tables are reversed, and we offer them vitriol, justifiable vitriol for their stupidity, they'll normally cry foul. And it's the same with anybody who's been conditioned to be a bully. The moment they have anything happen to them, they go away crying and calling foul on it.
Calling cops and shit.
Yeah, exactly. Mr. Sensible, literally calling the police on me because he came into my chat and he got the impression I was hinting that he should be doxxed. So he called the police.
Pussy.
Yeah, that was funny. You said, who the hell does this guy think he is? And that was like his call to say that Nathan was trying to dox him and get someone to find out who he is.
Did they come singing Roxanne or Can't Stand Losing?
I don't know. Like I say, that's just the typical MO of a bully when they get a taste of their own medicine. Even if they get a perceived taste of their own medicine, they'll cry foul.
Either way, Neil, to your last comment, it stings.
Hey, I'll give you a perfect example. When Mike Tyson, he was so slick at headbutting and elbowing, but when he got it back at him from Holyfield, all he was doing was crying to the referee.
Blasphemy.
Yeah, the ref got an earful.
Blasphemy.
Hey, listen, I like Mike Tyson now. I would probably root if he fought Holyfield again, but he just can't beat him. Styles beat Styles. But he cried as soon as he got it done to him. And that's how Paul is an anti-flat earth actor.
He was just different. I think his spirit was broken at that point, and Holyfield just came in, capitalized. He was more conditioned. He was in a better mental state.
Right, let me draw close to this, right? I don't want this to turn into a boxing discussion. When it was an analogy, that's fine. Just discussing the rise and wherefores of Tyson's boxing career, that I don't want.
Yeah,
I'm going after Tyson and Tyson's channel. You hear me, Mike Tyson? With your, I don't know how many subscribers, you better start talking about the flat earth and start telling them about Nathan Oakley.
He does have a good podcast,
just so Mike Tyson knows, right, I want no part of this. I know you can knock me the fuck out.
We know you can knock us out, Iron Mike. We're just kidding.
No, I'm just kidding. I know I'd knock his crazy old ass out.
Nathan's trying to see how many times I can switch my position in 60 seconds.
I've been watching Mike Tyson. Neil recommended his channel, and I went and watched. And don't get me wrong, he's employed a couple of good co-hosts, which do change, to prop him up and ask good questions. And then he just offers that little bit of magic Mike personality, doesn't he? He just like sprinkles it in where needed. But the show continues as a show without it relying on Mike to actually produce it. By produce it, I mean, put the material together and put the questions together and keep the flow going. The other people around him do that for him. And I think that's perfect. It shouldn't be left to an ex-boxer to make sure that it's a good YouTube show. And he hasn't. So, he's leaning on his strengths, keeping well away from his weaknesses. So, if you're watching this, Mike, I doubt it very much. But if you are, good show. However you've managed to pull that together, kudos. It's good. Good recommendation, Neil.
Well, if everybody does a little, Mike Tyson don't have to do nothing.
That's my exactly my attitude. That's why I can relate. If everybody does a little, Mike doesn't have to do anything.
I could almost hear that in your voice when you were bragging on him.
Yeah, well, he's got it sorted, right? Don't get me wrong, I do plenty, but I'm just saying, you got to rely on the people around you who are experts in whatever field they're experts in. If you can't do that, get somebody who can, rather than just saying, I'll be all right. At least he's savvy enough to know where his limitations lie, and that is often what makes people successful. Knowing where they can't do things and saying, I can't do this. Can you do that bit for me? Yeah, of course I can. And who wouldn't? Mike Tyson came up to you and go, look, I just need somebody that's going to keep the flow going on my show. Can you do that for me? Like, yes, please. Sat next to Mike. Yeah, I'll do that.
Well, his experience with wrong people handling him all those years gave him wisdom and who to have in his corner this time. That's why he's successful financially and everything else he does.
Did you ever see, while we're on the subject of Mike Tyson, did you ever see his abandoned mansion?
No.
If you type in Mike Tyson's abandoned mansion into Google, it'll probably still be there. It's probably 5 years ago that I looked at it. But it shows what he put together when he was at the peak of his career. Obviously, he's left that now. But it was just left abandoned with all the waterfalls and multiple pools. But his TV room was absolutely enormous with a giant projector in it. And just the scale of this house was just overwhelming. You could imagine getting literally lost in this house. And I looked at the shots, which I don't think they had any furniture in it from memory. It's all just been stripped out. But you could see where the fixtures were for his projector and things. And I was looking at it going, that's such a massive space. I could imagine even if you had people in the house with you, it'd be really lonely having such vast scale around you in terms of the size of your house. So you want to go to the kitchen and it's like, it's a 30-second to a minute walk to get to the kitchen, from where you are currently. And I'm sure there's a bar in there and all the rest of it, but you know what I'm getting at. It's just like you could have your wife in a different part of the house, and you wouldn't, unless you went on a wander for 10 minutes, you wouldn't find her. Just thinking how lonely it would be, but you'd have to see the house to know what I'm talking about. Glorious, don't get me wrong, not to my taste, but glorious all the same.
You're talking about the one that Barbara Walters interviewed him in right after that whole Robin Gibbons thing. Now you have pictures of it empty you're talking about?
It could be. I don't know. I'd have to check if that was the same location, but it had all like leopard print carpet and things like that.
Yes. And the waterfalls, yes. It's the same one.
Yeah. That's obviously now abandoned, but at the time valued at 3, 4, 5 million, something like that. Huge amount of money. Like with anything, you look at that and go, okay, if it's worth 5 million, it's probably had 10 million pumped into it to make it like that. It's never going to be recouped, but that's just what it would have cost to have all that stuff custom made. Far, far in excess of the worth of the value of the property. But why wouldn't you if you've got a shitload of money? Yeah, make it into a waterfall. It'd be lovely.
Well, a lot of people's mistakes when they have the money is they buy this big yacht and they don't realize that it's going to cost over $200,000 a year to maintain this tremendous yacht.
Well, that and the way I understood it, a lot of the money that was going into paying for that house wasn't even his. It was like people around him was handling the money for him.
Yeah, they robbed
and
him.
sticking as much in their pockets for the fee of letting him stay in things that he didn't own, pretty much.
Amazing.
Yeah, we
think the
all get
best
done
is
like that
these
when
people
we
think
don't
that
manage our finances. You know, I got like 7 subscriptions that I'm too lazy to cancel. They're just bleeding me dry slowly. You know, we're no different.
Really?
What's wrong with you, Eli?
Yo, there's this one carver. I'm coming for you. Yo, they've been charging me for months. Like these little $7 subscription fees is like it's up to like 90 something. I went on the website, I canceled it. They're still sending me receipts to my Cash App, the old one, and I'm like, yeah, you guys can go F off. So I don't know what else. I've sent them emails. I don't anyway. So I owe a lot of people a lot of money. It is what it is.
All righty. Thanks for filling us in. I've been e-begging to get money for a projector, and before I started e-begging for it, in other words, before it went pop or stopped working, I was already having a crap month. So I started saying, I've had a crap month. Please support me if you were thinking about it. And then I had a problem. So all that's happened is I've got a certain amount of support. So big thank you. I might as well do that as we're actually recording still. Thank you very much if you supported me recently via PayPal. But I'm going to continue doing it because I don't want to do a GoFundMe for the repair bill, which will be imminent. But what I've ended up doing is getting to the point where, okay, I'm not overdrawn and I'm not struggling and I can cover things, but I haven't actually built up any money to pay for the bloody bulb when the bill comes. So I'm going to have to continue e-begging because I'm just damned if I'm going to do a GoFundMe for it. It just feels wrong. But there we go. Hopefully I can continue e-begging for PayPals, and between now and when the bill actually comes with the repair bill and the new lamp bill, I can actually cover it with whatever I get between now and then. But, you know, nice that I've actually achieved the original aims of e-begging for PayPals to cover a crap month. Now I need to continue doing it with the same exact excuse, which is I still have a repair bill on the way, in spite of people actually having given me, you know, probably 80 or 90 quid already in PayPals, which is great. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it, especially as I needed it before I had a repair bill on the way. Anyway, enough of my moans. If you're going to moan, I'm going to moan.
Well, you know, you're providing a service in this. Like, I ain't saying people have to pay you for the service, you know, but if you weren't here, there would be a lot of people that are subscribed to your show who would feel bad, you know, who would get upset that you're no longer around. So I don't see how you can think it's wrong for you to ask for assistance when you need, you know, a component of your show is broken.
No, I don't feel it's bad to ask for assistance. Quite the opposite, and I very much take joy from the fact that I get it. You know, it's something I brag about, quite literally. You know, this is fantastic. I've got such a supportive community. They value what I do so much that they will support me with PayPals. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying I've got any issue with asking. My issue is that originally, less than 2 years ago, this specific piece of equipment, the projector, was bought with a GoFundMe. Now, if for the sake of argument, because they haven't got back to me, all they've done is said, the bulb's old, do you want us to replace it while we're repairing it? It'll cost 300 quid. And I've gone, yes, I do want to get it back repaired and with a bulb. So if that's the first tick, yes, he will still pay for that. I'm sure they'll get back and say it also needs a new X, Y, and Z. It'll cost X, Y, and Z amount of money. And then I'll get it back. But in doing that, if they keep adding on things to the repair, there will reach a point where I'll go, no, it's now not cost effective. If it's costing £800 or £900 for the sake of argument to fix it, at that point I'm going to go, no, I don't want to repair it. It's stupid, you know, because it's still a rattly old projector. It'll probably only last a couple more years if it's already needing repairs. At which point, when it needs replacing, that's when I can justify doing a GoFundMe. You know, this is now 4 or 5 years old, it's knackered, it's old, that's how it is, I've got to replace it to keep the show running. That I'd justify with a GoFundMe. But the repair, I can't justify a GoFundMe for that. Do you know what I mean? Because yes, it's still going to be several £100s, but I don't want to do a GoFundMe in case I might have to do that in a month. For all I know, I might have to actually go do a GoFundMe for a new projector. God, I hope I don't have to do that. It's less than 2 bloody years old. That's horrendous in terms of longevity. But it might be the case, so I'm kind of on tenterhooks about what I might have to do in the future. But if I do a GoFundMe now, raise £500 for the repair, just guessing what it might cost for the sake of argument, and then 6 months later or a month later do another GoFundMe going, no, it's actually broken completely now and I've got to replace it. You know, I won't get... And I would understand people not wanting to support that. Do you see what I mean?
Okay, yeah, I do. I understand that. I wasn't thinking of it as maybe having to replace it within a month or two, and that would kind of look bad.
Exactly.
Why didn't you just replace it to begin with?
Exactly. And at the moment, it's up in the air whether or not that is the case. So if that is the case, if I have to replace it, I won't hesitate. I'll go, I haven't got £1,500 and a replacement's £1,500. That's all it costs. So hopefully I'll get support. In the meantime, I'll continue using Adam's until his goes pop. It's quite old and it's quite noisy, which, no offence to Adam, that tends to tell me it might not last very long just by how much noise it makes. And that's just Entropy, right? It's an older projector. But while it works, I can still run the show, and when it pops, I won't. Like when the first one popped and before I toddled my way up to Adam. So in that respect, it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do at this point, so I don't want to run a GoFundMe for a speculative repair bill, because I don't even know how much it's going to cost other than the bulb so far. But anyway, hopefully people will just hit the PayPal link and it won't matter, and I'll just get it fixed and I'll get it back, and then in 2 or 3 years I'll do a GoFundMe for a new one, and this will all be long forgotten.
Well, now if it does go, if the one you have,
you can do except I understand you have a preference for the projector, but is there something else you can do? Because it just sounds like the fact that you have to you have to plan on replacing this thing every year. It's like, I don't understand why
not every year
you can't get.
No, it's not every year.
And it's not just that, because look, I've had friends that had projectors and projector televisions back in the day, and they had to get it fixed every freaking, it seemed like every other month. I'm probably exaggerating because I was younger, but it's like, it sounds like antiquated technology, man. We walked on the moon in '69, but to get a projector lamp to last, more than a year, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, a telly would last 10 times longer. Yeah, so
that's pure projection, chocolate.
You might get, so out of a TV screen, right, the difference is half-life. So on any telly, doesn't matter if it's LCD or OLED or a tube TV, it's got a half-life. Now that is to say that when they quote the amount of hours that it will last, typically a TV or a monitor will last between 10 and 20,000 hours. Now the bulb life on a projector is 2,000 hours. So best case scenario, you go through 3 bulbs. That is the best any projector's ever done for me. 2 changes of bulbs, 3 bulbs total that it's gone through before it's had to be replaced. Now, if you're getting a couple of thousand hours, you're edging up to the low end life of a telly. Best case scenario. But that's just something you have to accept because it's running at a high temperature to produce such a big picture. Now, you could say, well, what's the alternative? I could buy an enormous telly. But why haven't I? Well, because I live in an apartment and the space is an absolute premium. So everything has to be able to be put away. So once the show finishes, the mic gets folded away into the corner, the camera gets folded away behind my other monitor, and the screen gets rolled up so it becomes a window and the room becomes a lounge again. For now, there's nobody here. When I'm doing the show, it's a dedicated space. There's no kids around. Occasionally you can hear them in the next room. That's the Mikhail address. But it's just my space, and it's set up to be the studio with everything running. And the reason I want a projector over another telly, A, because I haven't got anywhere to put another telly, and B, because when it's working, I said this on the other show, I've got essentially 4 1080p TV screens, and because it's massive, they are of a usable size. So each corner of the screen would be like the size of a regular telly. Yeah, so I've got 4 regular telly size worth of screens that can be put away. And that's just something I made a choice of long before I did this debate. So I've gone through at least 10 or 12 projectors in my lifetime, because I've lived in this flat for the majority of my lifetime. Therefore, that's the most practical thing I can do in this space, because there's nowhere to put anything. There's even less space to put anything now I've got 2 kids. Eventually, I'm going to have to get a house because I've completely run out of space. There's nowhere to put anything in this space. It's not a fun place to live at the moment. Not that I'm moaning. I'm glad I've got a roof over my head. I'm glad I can afford to pay the mortgage. That's the first priority. And the fact that I've got a channel and people give me super chats, because I certainly don't do the ad revenue, means I can pay the mortgage and have a roof to have a show. So I'm grateful for small mercies in that regard. Anyway, I'm babbling on a little bit. Smash the PayPal.
I'm on the same thing. What I did was I got a storage room. Get rid of half the junk I got. Well, not junk, it's stuff that I still use, but I had no space. I had to get a storage room. $80 a month, 10 by 10, fits a lot of stuff.
No, we did that. We bought a garage. So my wife bought a garage for $8,000. They're worth 15 now. But about 5 years ago, that's the conclusion we went. We had to put stuff that we did not want to get rid of, but physically didn't have space for. So that's all now stacked up in the garage and gets rotated every so often, like toys. We can't fit some of the bigger toys in, so we just have to put them in cellophane in the garage, and then when something else is bored of, it's rotated. Pain in the arse, but that's just how you have to live your life if you're limited for space.
Nathan, I got 4 slides of Master B I'd like to share, if everyone's done.
Nathan, why don't you get VR goggles and just use that?
My favorite's these Google PhD science heads that come on the show and think they know something. That's what's hilarious.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I've got your triangle up. Hypotenuse, perpendicular, base. 90 degrees.
So in celestial navigation, we are told that the GP of a star is a right angle to the observer. So it would take this right angle triangle. As you can see here, you need that baseline to be flat, which is the observer holding the sextant all the way to the box that says 90. That would be the GP of the sun or star that you're sighting directly over the Earth somewhere. Next slide, please. As you can see, this is one of their slides. They show it on a circle here with 3 circles of equal altitudes with 3 different stars. They all have the box of 90. So illustrating the previous slide, it's a right angle triangle being done with the sextant to the GP of these 3 stars, which then where they all cross is your position. They call that the fix, where the observer is. Next slide shows Captain Navigator holding a sextant, and you can see the horizon. It is flat, it is level, it is horizontal, and it can give you the star in the sky, and you bring it down to the horizon, and there's your box at the GP, the 90. The last slide. Sextant, optical instrument for measuring the angle between a heavenly body and the horizon to determine the ship's position. End of story, ballers. You're the sextant 2021.
With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Primary streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.